You're not the newest man.
I'm not this. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the June 18th, 2018 meeting of the Littleton Conservation Commission. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Let's see. Our first topic is administrative discussion and meeting minutes. Does anybody have any edits to the minutes that they'd like to?
I have very minor ones, except for the last. The continued public hearing notice of intent for Bruce Street. Third sentence, it says they do want to keep the proposed driveway, but commission said that a waiver for that would be very unlikely. And then I added, as there is an alternative, i.e. off of Lorry Lane. Because we thought that they wouldn't get a waiver because they had an obvious alternative that was better for the wetland anyway. And then the next sentence, need an alternatives analysis to keep the driveway in the proposed location. Where instead of alternatives analysis to locate driveway somewhere else. They need to compare it to keep it there because they would need to have it be the best solution.
Did you write? I don't.
Yes,
quite
I did a red
yeah.
line, so.
I get the gist of where you're
Yeah.
going. Yeah.
And then the last sentence, you said some discussion of an isolated wetland that you didn't understand. I thought that was, there was a portion of another wetland at the site. Was it the northern portion of the property? It was.
I talked to Chuck Karen later, and he told me where that was. It's the one way in back.
Right,
Yeah,
and it was only a
exactly.
portion
Yeah.
of it, and he said it
Right.
was isolated, and we
We
were
thought it
asking
might have
how-
gone on to the other property.
Right.
and
Right.
It sounded like it didn't.
Right. to
Well,
see
it does,
if
but
That
the
it
whole
does, but
the
it's
whole big
isolated,
thing is
yeah.
You said that, you said that it was 5,000, less than 5,000 feet, or even if it was more. I don't know. There was talk about how big it was, but anyway, I put a portion of another wetland at the site, was indicated on the plan, and the developer said that the wetland was isolated. So I added that in as a red line too. But
Yeah.
do you agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay, thanks.
Are there any other edits that anybody would like
No.
to share?
I just had
Do we have a motion
one on
to?
that front.
Oh,
I don't know if you got
Yeah,
that
perfect, thanks.
front page.
so do we have a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
I'll motion to approve the minutes as amended.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, our next item is Chestnut Lane Extension Activity. DEP file number 204-650, expired June 2017, wetland mitigation never done.
They're actually are going to come in towards the end of the meeting, so we can probably just bump it up to if they show up.
Okay.
Okay.
Signature authorizations for accounts payable.
Oh, that's something.
It's that
I
time
have
of
to do?
year. Well, somebody needs to do.
Oh, so it's changing from me potentially to somebody else?
Well, yeah, so you guys just need to vote of who the presumably two designated commissioners will be who can sign the bills. I think it's been Andrew and Anna.
I'll do it.
I'll continue to do it if you want.
All right, can someone just,
Sounds good.
wait, someone how about Carl, who wants to make the motion?
I'll make a motion that
Thank you, Carl.
the two signatories continue as signatories.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Request for land use permit, Mill Hill, Mass Department of Agricultural Resources.
Hang on one second, on June 18th, 2018, motion was made by and seconded by will be and that's what, oh, there's 5 of you? 5-0. There you go, you can sign that. Thanks, sorry. Okay, the land use permit, this is the pest capture and review one they've been doing for a while. I was wondering, and I don't see any reason why not, if you're interested in making this good for like 3 years, so you don't have to come back once a year.
Sorry, what was that?
This is the land use permit for the 2018 Forest Pest Survey at the Mill Hill Conservation Area.
Forest Pest Survey.
They are looking, it's
Oh,
for
I
the
remember
trapping.
that.
They're looking for the
Insects.
black fir sawyer, the Japanese pond sawyer, the brown spruce longhorn beetle, and the brown spruce longhorn and the black spruce longhorn beetle, the Masson pine moth, and the pine sawfly.
Although we've never had a report from them about what they've been doing so far, right?
We have,
Are we supposed to? Oh.
yeah.
What was it? Did they find them?
I forget.
Oh. Have we seen it, like the rest of the commission?
It would have been last year, I can dig it up and circulate it.
Do you guys remember seeing it?
No.
They've been doing it the last
Several
3 or 4
years.
years.
Yeah.
I think they've sent like a brief thing each time, but I don't know if it was circulated.
Oh,
I can dig it out and recirculate it.
I'd like to know what they're doing.
And what they find.
Yeah, interesting to hear.
Okay, update.
So does anybody want to vote on that?
Oh yeah, that's right. That's probably a good idea.
Make a motion to approve the request for a land use permit for a period of 3 years for the Mill Hill Pest Survey by the Massachusetts Department of Agricultural Resources.
A second.
All those in, am I supposed to say?
You could, yeah. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then you can sign it.
Wait, so previously it was less than 3 years, you said?
It was a year.
It's always been kind of a year at a time, and then, but they're always doing the same thing.
Okay. All right, and they need to go 3 years?
So I'll get
How
Jim.
long is this process? Or
They're,
is
they're
it-
just probably gonna keep going.
Oh,
So they have the information. I will try
okay,
to remember to get Jim to sign that.
all right.
Okay. Update, Jerky Farmhouse possible requests for certificates of compliance and farm pond culvert.
I assume that can wait until they get here for later in the evening.
Okay. Bylaw regulatory review.
I'm assuming nobody had the heart for that tonight, because I didn't bring anything with me. So I think it was really down to the discussion of sort of the grandfathering and whether or not there's a de minimis allowed on a existing house or structure or anything like that.
Oh, yeah, we discussed whether 500 square feet was
Too big.
Too big or too small.
Yeah, I think it's kind of big.
Yeah, that is big.
It's, 25 by 20. But of course, then also, it's big for a house, it's nothing for a commercial, so it's gonna be more the size of the impact, relatively
Yeah,
speaking.
we need to have a discussion, I think, with the bylaws in front of us.
Yeah, and maybe with some example plans,
Yeah.
too.
I mean, we could make it 2 different ones, but
Right.
depending on the
That's
size.
where I was kind
Yeah.
of going, thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think part of it also said either, 5% or whatever, whichever's less, or whichever's more. So
Or
if
make it
you have
whichever's
some.
less.
Yeah, I think it was whichever's less, but that means, like, if you have something like Workers' Credit Union, which already has a lot of disturbance already in there, if you keep it with whichever's less, it wouldn't make any difference on that one, but
Yeah, I think we need
But I'll try to
think about
mock up some
some of the other.
examples and.
But for that, I mean, wouldn't it be the case that it would only be the new, like, expansion of the current
The
footprint?
boss.
Mhm.
Rather than, I mean, if they already had that footprint,
Underwater.
we're talking about additional, right?
Right, well, so if basically they have a grandfathered 1,000 square feet in the 50-foot no disturb area, can they increase that? And I know some towns have a limit on it. They also say that if it's, the existing use is 25 feet away, they can't get any closer than 25 feet. And that's the problem we run into in Acton, is that's all it says, which means they could do acres of disturbance in one sense, as long as they stay 25 feet from the one closest corner, so it's, but it's the kind of thing you don't really get a handle on until you really start thinking about specific
Yeah.
issues. So it might be better to try to set something, set up some policies, and might need to change as it goes along, so.
Right. Okay. We're letting the bylaw regulatory review.
Yeah. Sorry about being late, folks.
It's okay.
So that was 3/4 of an inch, huh?
Hmm?
That was 3/4 of an inch that they
Yeah.
just got in
Half an hour.
half an hour or something, yeah, that's,
That was,
It was.
Yeah.
it was intense.
it was pouring.
We had to drive the car and go over to Harvard Bowling Alley from the farm to pick up a truck. And it was just water all over the place.
Oh, geez.
Hmm.
And it's coming down.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the next one was the Hartwell Avenue Conservation Restriction, and I have no update on that, and I thought I printed out what Natural Heritage said. The letter that Natural Heritage wrote could be interpreted two different ways. They basically gave them 6 months, and you know how you read it, either to come up with a plan or to come up with a plan and do the work. Maybe it depends where the floating, let me see if it's sitting on the printer.
Assume you've taken all these up.
Yeah.
So I have not harassed them yet. So
So,
I wanted to see what your preference was. What she says is,
these guys are coming in, so these are on hold.
Okay.
the whole, the owner has to undertake the following steps. Working with the Little Conservation Commission in order to develop a plan to remove all incompatible uses and restore the affected conservation restriction within 6 months of the date of this letter. So you can either read that they need to come up with a plan within 6 months, or they have to come up with a plan and restore it. It's like the last sentence, and it carries over. And that's just what Natural Heritage says. So I don't know if you wanted me to push them to try to get the work done by the fall, or just to come up with a plan in 6 months of, what was that, a March date, I think?
It
Stay.
sounds like both.
I was reading to get it all done
Yeah.
within 6 months.
I would read it.
It seems as though the way things happen around here, best you can hope for is to get a good plan and maybe working on it.
Yeah, I would think if they can enjoy their sand beach volleyball court, you know, in the summer, and then start doing the restoration in the fall and do a fall planting. So I will get back to the two parties involved and ask them where their plan is.
We had one that had to move a shed or something.
Right,
They
exactly.
decided to move the shed.
Yes, yeah, and that's fairly straightforward.
Yeah.
I would think, maybe a little bit of planting, but the other one would get more complicated. All right, I'll contact them about where they're, finding out where their plan is.
And maybe they should plan it so we could still restore it, like planting seed or grass or whatever they're gonna plant in place of the volleyball court when it's still, the season to do that.
Right, yeah, exactly. So they need to come up with a plan, you guys need to prove it, Natural Heritage needs to look at it, and then they need to do the work. So,
That's been since March.
right, so Natural Heritage gave them 6 months.
I would think minimal, they at least better have a plan
Yeah.
Yeah,
in hand, and hopefully before the end of the growing season.
right, yeah, well, I'll tell them, the first meeting in August, maybe?
Yeah.
How long does it take for Natural Heritage to, review it?
It depends, they can be fairly quick.
Okay.
But at least, let's get this in the chute maybe and
Yeah.
start it. If it gets held up for other reasons, then, but let's get the property owners moving along, if that sounds.
Yeah.
Continued discussion enforcement order at 65 Hartwell Ave.
It had been, well, of course, it just got wet again, wet out there, so he has not gotten down into the wetland removal yet. So he asked if he can come in at the next meeting to discuss it, to hopefully have the work done.
Hmm.
by then.
Hopefully it's not further out in there.
I
after-
was-
After today.
I was gonna go out tomorrow, and now I guess I really will go out tomorrow and see how it looks.
Yeah. Coordinate vacation.
Yay,
I mean, you taking all of us?
sure.
I'm
Pay
not
as
going
you
to
go,
Iowa.
though.
I'm
You're
not going to Iowa.
Come on. You can all drive. So I was,
Good road trip.
I will be here for the July 11th filing deadline, so I'll be able to intake anything and do all the notices and all that stuff. But I will miss the July 23rd meeting. And Marilyn Federer? I forget, not Federer.
Fidel.
Thank you, yes. Has agreed to cover. I assume you would want somebody in here to at least take the minimal notes. It worked out fairly well for me to listen to you guys after, except for when Brian delivered all the plans, and you're sitting there going, oh, I'm hearing his plans.
Oh.
Julie's got plans up here. And okay, well, I missed about
I
5
remember the
minutes
plans.
there.
Yes. There you go. That was a lot of plan shuffling.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be out July 23rd as well.
All right.
Anybody else got plans for July that you know of right now?
I'm out July
No.
9th.
Not that I know
Be
of
in
yet.
Idaho.
I'm sure
Or
I
I'll be
will.
at Yellowstone, July 9th. I'll be here the 23rd, though.
Other updates, what else you?
I got a couple other things. You want to run through them now, or just push them to the end?
Well,
We
maybe-
do have some holes that appeared in the agenda, so maybe we can
Okay,
fill those up.
all right.
Do you want Jim's signature? You said
Oh, yeah, yeah.
we did the mill.
This is the land use permit for the Department of Agricultural Pest Survey Program that
The
these guys
beetles.
voted on. But you get to sign it. On the
They're
bottom
they're
left, I
counting
believe it is.
beetles
Needs to go-
and moths.
No. I've been dealing with the Maryland caterpillars over at the Stowe Conservation Land.
Mm.
They've been going on for.
Maryland?
It's their national caterpillar, but evidently,
Oh.
but they are over in the Stowe Road property, and the Tufts managed to get some sort of a grant to count them. It's been going on for about 10 years.
Count
Oh.
caterpillars?
Yes. For some reason or other, they claim it's got something to do with the global warming or something.
They're moving on?
Are they a good caterpillar or a bad caterpillar?
They're a nuisance.
I say, if they're counting them, they can't be
Yeah,
good.
they don't count them.
Cut the hay until the 20th of July
Yeah,
To protect the caterpillar?
because of them.
yeah.
Why?
Well, they want to protect them and they want to be able to count them.
Huh.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Are they endangered or something? Anyway.
Yeah, my
Lucky.
cutter bar gets them.
Uh-oh.
Okay. 7:45, continued public hearing, notice of intent, 22 Cricket Lane, U 46-7, Mass D, file number 204-866, for replacement of a septic system and well.
I'm Kevin Ritchie from Civil Solutions. Here on behalf of Karen McDonald, the owner at 22 Cricket. We had our site walk there last week.
If someone wants an extra one.
It's an extra, that's the second one.
They would open one down at the end. maybe.
Good. So we were here last week. We're proposing a new septic system outside the buffer zone, a new well down here by the pond, tanks in the side yard. So what we've done, we show the water line coming around the back of the house. So we paved patio here. I'm gonna cut that, dig close to the house, come up around the side and come in the back. It's relatively flat across the backside here.
Wait, the water line?
Yeah, so we're gonna bring the water line.
Alternative,
We're just gonna go with the one coming up around the back.
oh, okay.
Just given the location of the septic system and the tanks and whatnot. Board of Health purposes, we'll go around to maintain our offsets. We've relocated the hay bale line down onto the beach. We've extended it up the sideline. Done the same with the hay bale line here. It was just coming across here before, we run it up the hill. We've got the steps coming down the hill and a kind of a patio block walk down there. So we'll remove that during construction, we'll put that back. Move the force main, the line from the pump chamber up to the leaching area so that it's under the steps, just rather than digging through the hill. We can get it over here, under the steps. I thought it might be a little less disruptive. Again, so we run the sedimentation barrier up to the buffer zone, into the edge of the buffer zone.
Did you talk to the well installer about how they're gonna do that? I remember you were gonna.
I did not talk to the well installer, no, but it, I did add a sedimentation basin around the well there. Oh, the pump, there will be a pump in the well, on top of the well. It's gonna be in a little plastic tile, so like the old cement tiles, but this one's plastic, so that'll be in the, right over the well.
Has he done any test borings or anything there to know what he's getting into?
The only thing that anyone's done out there, somebody dug around to see if they could actually locate the well and the water line. Those were pretty minimally invasive. I mean, you can barely tell where they are. The thing we dug test holes up here in the driveway, but we haven't done any digging down in this area.
Curiosity, the pipe going out of the house, is it metal or plastic?
I think it was plastic, if I remember right.
I was thinking
Yeah.
water department sometimes can trace lines.
Well, they could, what they, you know, even though the well companies will, sometimes when we can't find a well, we'll have the homeowner give a well company, they'll come in, disconnect it in the house and run a snake out there and they can trace it and pinpoint it. I think that's what they actually did, but I think it kept on going.
Oh,
It just kept on going, and at that point it was
beyond.
It was
the
either
retaining-
it was out in the pond, or it was circling in a shallow well, and the homeowner didn't want to invest the money in doing any more research as to whether it was in a shallow well or not. So at that point, the Board of Health was assuming it's sucking pond water, so they required a new well, and we had to push it over to the, as far, kind of in this corner here, just to, because there is another house here and nobody knows where their septic system is. They are drawing out of the pond. You can see their water line laying across the ground surface. So we kind of got stuff down here to get as far off this leaching area as we could and as far off the neighbor as well. There was that big pine tree, so we're proposing to take that down. We're going to leave the stump.
There were a couple of them they were gonna take down.
Yeah, no, so there was the one up at the top here outside the buffer zone, that big one. There was one over here, this oak tree here, that's going, and then the pine tree down here. There was another row of pine trees down the side, but those are all off the lot, so we're obviously not touching those.
Okay.
I did add some notes, any of the disturbed soil areas, we'll put jute netting down prior to seeding it. We're calling for, this here was all English ivy now, so we're calling to that to be replaced back in that area. In this area here where they disturb it, again, we'll jute netting and loam and seed that. We're calling for this to be dug and backfilled in the same day, just so it's not left open.
I was wondering if they happened to be digging around there and came up, found that water line, could they tie into that? Oh, not.
I'm not sure, because I think that's what had been one of our thoughts. I think the well guy thought it was too small. It was a 3/4 inch line. They're gonna run 2 lines out to the pump, I believe. So that was my thought, is if they hit it, could they
Yeah.
just tap into it?
They probably could, but they probably couldn't guarantee their work. They're
Right.
not gonna do that.
So I mean, if they if they are coming along here and they find something that they can tie into, I would say they're gonna stop and tie into it.
It's just gonna be a trench,
Yeah, so it'll just be as narrow as they can dig, probably a foot wide.
because, I mean, that area looked pretty unstable, and then it was like right on top of, it looked like pavement right on top of.
Yeah, no, and that's kinda why we stayed back as close to the house as we could. They looked like there were some railroad ties under
Yes.
that pavement.
Right.
And if we can miss those, I think we'll be better off. Again, we don't wanna get too close to the wall. That looked like it was already on its way out.
I'm
I
just
don't think we
worried
wanna add any more to that.
Well, don't you think those tires go all the way to the house?
I don't think they do. They look like they stopped a couple of feet out.
Oh.
We kinda, I went back, when did I go back? Thursday or Friday. Took another look around.
So you're just gonna replace it in kind, like this pavement there, just pave
Yeah,
it?
yeah, that's right, yeah. Otherwise, you're getting into, I don't know, taking up the whole thing and. I don't know, is that better or worse? I'm not sure.
Well, I'm kind of wondering where it's so close to the wall, whether there's a footing that he's gonna run into that the wall sits on when he goes down with the well. He's almost
He-
on.
No, you know, he is almost on top of that thing.
Yeah,
It's right in the stairs, just about,
yeah. I don't know, you're not gonna know until you try it.
yeah.
We have like enough equipment or provisions on site, so if you start losing a slope, like that's something that can be
I think
dealt
that,
with.
yeah, so the slope's the worst up here.
Yeah.
Again,
I've
not
seen-
not cutting in here, I figured, that's gonna save that. And then we get this little plateau here,
Right.
so.
Anybody else got any comments?
No.
So,
Okay. Make a motion? Make a motion to issue an order of conditions to, project at, 22 Cricket Lane, U 46-7 at Mass DEP 204866 for replacement of septic system and well.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
And thank you very much.
Yeah, That's right on throat.
I know, it's actually been a while since you signed something. Thank you.
Thanks.
Continued public hearing, notice of intent, 151 Taylor Street, R10-14, Mass DOP file number 204-8 at X, for demolition of the existing faculties and construction of a new shipping faculty, parking and loading area, surface infiltration rain system, rain garden, and fire lane.
How's it going?
Hi, my name's Rob Gemma from Metro West Engineering, and I'm representing the Bullfinch companies who own the property at 151 Taylor Street, which is pretty much right at the interchange of, is this okay? Just check that. Yes, check. You okay? Pretty much at the interchange of Route 2 and 495. So this is the existing conditions plan. It shows the existing two-story office building has a footprint of about 51,000 square feet. The parking lot, the gray area shows a bordering vegetated wetland. The orange dashed line is a 50-foot no disturb zone under your bylaw. There's also there's a smaller wetland up here, which is basically formed from the street drainage from both Taylor Street and this private driveway that comes in. It dumps in with an inlet here and an outlet there, and there's a bit of vegetation around that, what I think was probably originally a detention pond, so there's a small wetland there itself.
But it connects to that other wetland eventually?
I think it actually goes across Monarch Drive. There's no piping that brings it down to here. It's a 340 space parking lot on the existing site. The overall property is just under 29 acres. There's about 18 acres of upland and roughly 11 acres of wetland on the site. This wetland eventually borders on Beaver Brook, but we're like a couple thousand feet away from the actual bank of the brook itself. We do have, which isn't shown on this plan, but it's shown on another plan, there's a certified vernal pool right in this location, and we've also got priority habitat for Blanding's turtle on the site as well. Right now, the parking lot is drained into a series of catch basins that then go into dry wells, and I think it's, from our modeling effort, it looks like it probably handles something around the 2-year storm. There's not really any level of pre-treatment or anything. It predates stormwater management policy. Building itself was built around 1988. The Bullfinch companies acquired it about 10 or 12 years ago. They've had trouble leasing it since they've owned it. In the last couple of years, it's actually been vacant. Just some of the numbers on the existing conditions that I wanted to highlight is that, well, under the existing conditions, most of the site itself is outside the buffer zone, other than up here, a little bit in here, and then in here. But this portion of the site, there is a portion of the existing pavement, and the existing turf lawn is inside your 50-foot no disturb zone. Obviously, this project itself predated your local wetland bylaw. So at present, there's about 8,500 square feet of impervious area that's inside the 100-foot buffer zone, 270 square feet of pavement inside the 50-foot no disturb zone, and about 3,500 square feet of turf that's in there. So the proposal is, and I'll put this plan up first. The proposal is to raise the existing office building, which again has been kind of an economic sinkhole for the owner, and to build a facility that's essentially a warehouse where big trucks come in and load up goods into small trucks. And this plan shows, the brown shows the new building, the gray being either parking or loading and unloading areas. There's 134 parking spaces on site, down from 340 in the existing conditions, and 30 loading bays in the rear. The purple shows the outline of the existing building and the existing parking lot, which goes through here. So it's a bit of an expansion in terms of the overall impervious area on the site. We're adding about 36,000 square feet of additional building and or pavement, bringing the impervious area from 225,000 square feet to 260,000 square feet. There's actually only about, again, blue being the wetland buffer, there's about 35,000 square feet of activity that's inside the buffer zone itself. A lot of it has to do with grading, demolition of the building, and that sort of thing.
Is the pale green lawn?
Yes,
Is that what you're saying?
under the, actually under, it actually is not all lawn. I've got a limit of work line that's actually shown more accurately on the grading plan, so I'll put that board up. Same orientation. So this is already lawn on the existing site. This would be new lawn, or actually new grading area on the new site, so I'll go through the features of the development. The footprint itself it's a one-story building. It's 144,000 square feet. There's 30 loading bays in the back, and again, a total of 134 spaces for employees. I mentioned the impervious area will go up from 225,000 square feet to 261. The impervious area inside the 100-foot buffer zone is only going to increase by 1,400 square feet, so there's not a lot more impervious area inside the buffer zone. And one of the things that will happen is, again, this is the 50-foot no disturb zone right now. This is the limit of erosion control, and the proposal is to come in and restore that area that's inside the 50 feet with natural native plantings, remove the turf, remove the pavement. And that actually also includes a bit of removal inside the 100-foot buffer zone. So the 3,500 square feet of turf comes out, 267 square feet of pavement comes out, and about 1,500 square feet of lawn area that's inside the 100-foot buffer zone also comes out in this restoration project. In terms of stormwater management, we tried to be as LID friendly as we could on this project. The roof area itself is going to all, that water, which is clean compared to parking lot stormwater runoff, is going to be directed to a rain garden infiltration system that's in here that would handle all flows up to the 25-year event through infiltration and evapotranspiration through the plant species. And then for the 100-year storm, there's a small overflow through the through a spillway that would go out through this way. The northerly parking lot, which is all working equal, would be handled in a couple of ways. These green boxes here are bioretention cells, so small rain gardens where the parking lot runs through the curbing and into these planted retention cells. And again, those will handle up to the 25-year storm. And then above the 25-year storm, the excess flow would be directed to a subsurface infiltration system below the parking lot, which will handle, any of the excess flows. The rear loading, unloading area and this back parking lot would be directed to an infiltration system here that's partially under the pavement and partially within the existing lawn area. One thing I should mention too is you probably realize the site's in an aquifer protection district, so it's blessed with glacial outwash soils. I mean, there's 20 feet of beach sand out in the site, so it's an excellent site for infiltration. We had met before we came to your committee with the fire safety officer who wanted basically 4 sides of building access for fire staging. So what we've proposed for that, and I've run it by him, they seemed happy with it, was an access drive off of Monarch Drive. That would be constructed of porous paving material. So we'd let that infiltrate. This is a 5-foot wide pedestrian sidewalk to let you walk around the building as well, and that would also be constructed of porous asphalt or porous pavers. So that will infiltrate as well. Trying to think if there are any other key features that I want to hit on the site. I think that's probably the highlights of the site. We have heard back from Fish and Wildlife, and they were okay with the site in terms of Blanding's turtle habitat. So they gave us a green letter.
Is this the first building in line or the second one? There's 2 of them.
This is the first one that's closer to Taylor Street as you go down that private drive.
I believe that was a former gravel pit.
Yeah, you can see where the cut slope is, and again, we did quite a bit of soil testing out there, and the soils were kind of an engineer's dream in terms of stormwater management.
Now, you said there's going to be overflow from 25 or more year storm from that infiltration, the roof
The rain,
infiltration?
yeah.
Where again, is that just gonna overflow to the wetland?
It'll overflow through a depression in the embankment, and then it'll flow over into the spillway, but the flows were really minimal. I mean, it was like a couple of thousand cubic feet, and the flows were, like less than a cubic feet per second. So the flows weren't really real significant, we could have sized this rain garden to actually keep even the 100-year storm in there, but the cuts get more extensive and it pushes out the basin further out. So I thought for that level, handling a 25-year storm in a rain garden is a pretty conservative design. And then when we look at the overall volume and rate reductions from the actual developed portion of the site, because we've got such a more beefier stormwater system, we're knocking down the volumes that run off overland by roughly 80 to 90%, and the peak rates are also being knocked down by 80% for the larger storm events. So we're really, there's going to be very little stormwater that runs off the site overland into the wetland. Most of it is going to be recharged into the groundwater.
Because I was gonna say, we're getting 100-year storms much
Frequently.
more regularly.
That's all sandy soils down there, it just.
Yeah.
Even if you look at the existing site, which has a system that's designed for probably a 2-year storm, you can't find any evidence of overland flow, any points of scour.
It's so fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a site that really absorbs water.
But do you know what is going to be stored in the building?
It's a commerce facility, is the proposal, so it's, you know, I can't say that it's necessarily Amazon, but it's that type of thing where trucks would come out with larger loads and then be broken down to delivery to consumers. Not gonna be any hazardous materials or that sort of thing. It's not a chemical storehouse or anything. It's basically designed for consumer and you know, retail uses.
Will trucks be maintained there?
No.
Where's the Blandings turtle habitat?
It's this wetland.
I think, Carl, I think that's actually similar to, like, that area that's mapped as critical habitat for species of concern, and it actually would include more than, I think there's at least 6 species that we identified across the street when we were looking at the wetland.
Yeah, it
So-
could be Blandings turtle's the one that popped up when I was researching it online.
There's Blandings, Eastern Box, like, there's
Yep.
like
I
6 of
think,
them.
see, as it,
that pop
you
up.
followed that Monarch Drive down around, there's a curve.
Yep.
And I think we had to make accommodations for the turtles to go underneath the roadway or something, there's some sort of a.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and there's a parcel of land that's also owned by Bullfinch that these boards don't actually show, but they show on the plans, so there's a conservation restriction line for
Yeah, I
a
saw that
separate
in the
parcel
package.
that Bullfinch owns it's adjacent to this, but since we're not proposing to do anything there, I haven't shown on this board.
Yeah, actually, I'm Jim Ward, I'm the attorney for Bullfinch and was involved in the conservation restriction back when the property in the far back was supposed to be a hotel or something.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
I think that was
You
one-
probably-
might have
Some of
been
you
one-
probably weren't even on the board,
Okay,
when that was
yes.
going on. But we, as part of that, and we actually, for Bullfinch, had come in for an order of conditions to expand the parking or something, which was never done. But as part of that whole global work, we put a conservation restriction in, and there's tunnels and
Yeah.
turtle tunnels and barriers and fences and things that were
Yeah.
created under the
Alright.
CR.
And we
So-
did get we got an order of conditions from your commission, I think it was in 2006.
Is it that long?
Yeah, time goes by when you're having fun, but it expanded the parking lot on the original building, basically to where we have the rain garden today, but it was never built.
I was gonna say, I thought this was a digital building at one point. Digital might have been in it for a while. I think both of those buildings, I think for a while.
It's possible.
I thought I read in the materials something about packaging and like production or.
No, it's
so
really, it's a warehouse thing,
so
so
it's-
it's,
okay.
you know, it's taking, I think, big boxes and put them in, and, you know, sending them out as smaller boxes type of thing.
Yeah.
I think the hope is, obviously, everybody wants to get Amazon. That's
Be interesting.
It's
Yeah.
definitely geared towards e-commerce.
Sure, yeah, I saw e-commerce, but it almost sounded like it was like the repackaging stuck in my mind as like
Yeah, that-
we're producing packaging and that.
I'll take the blame for that writing. It was
Yeah,
probably.
no, that's fine.
I think what I meant was, you know, they probably come in on big pallets.
Yep.
And then get, you know,
Right.
broken down into smaller shipments.
Just gonna be one of those computerized type things that run up.
That's the hope, yeah. That-
And it would be
Yeah.
done indoors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we don't have like
There's
plastic
nothing-
flying all over
no,
the place
No,
or.
everything's, even
Be
in
done,
terms of.
like, sealed dock
trash
doors
management
and-
would be internal compactor and that sort of thing.
Yep. You picture stuff flying all over the place if it's
No, and if you.
not
know-
managed well.
Actually, if you know this particular owner, he's
Yeah.
incredibly fastidious.
Yeah.
I'm
Is
just-
he gonna have,
Go ahead.
you're gonna have a maintenance plan for the porous pavement?
We do, although, you know, as that's basically really intended only for the fire department, I think the maintenance on that will pretty much be limited to snow clearing. you know, it won't need to be sanded and maintained for, you know, people coming into the building and that sort of thing.
Okay.
So
So
that'll
we'll
be
plug
pretty
up.
limited.
Yeah, can make a difference.
Why just that and not the rest of the parking area be porous?
Well, for one thing, heavy trucks and porous pavement don't mix. They,
Puddling.
Yeah.
You end up with a bunch of puddling if you don't have it paved. And
You get little
potholes and
drips.
But if
just
he's
keep.
gonna
Drips and
maintain the
leaks,
other one,
too.
I thought maybe they could just maintain everything.
no, but in terms of structural loading, now, obviously, the fire trucks are heavy, but, you know, hopefully, you know, they're not gonna use that thing too often. You know, hopefully the building won't burn down more than once. But in terms of running tractor-trailer trucks in, it's never done on porous pavement. It just won't support it structurally because there's such a big gap between the aggregate that it crushes it.
Yeah, I think from a like contamination standpoint too, like, just
That's the other
vehicle
thing, too.
vehicle traffic, you
Well,
just
you
naturally
constantly-
get, yeah, I mean, you just naturally get drips and
And the
drops
diesel
here and
trucks, you
there.
know, tend to run dirtier than
Like
cars.
hydraulic lines.
Yeah.
and-
Do you have anything that shows the whole septic system? That's in the buffer zone too, right, off to the south?
The buffer zone's outside the the septic system's outside the buffer.
But the grading's in there.
The grading's
As it
in
go
there,
down,
but,
yeah, okay.
Well, I haven't designed the septic system yet, so we'll be going to the Board of Health. But this was really our first stop to see you folks, make sure that there's no fatal errors here.
No, I like the
My
fact
first
that
stop
you're
was the
pulling
fire
out,
department.
I like the fact that you're restoring the 50-foot.
Well, and Amy, really gave me some guidance on that, so we
Yeah, and
at one point.
we
looked
went
at-
back and forth on
Stormwater
that a little bit,
improvements.
so that's what kind of the building has a jog in it.
Yeah.
And the way the new fees worked is that because they are in the 50-foot, they could have had their fees doubled.
Mm.
But I did not do that because it was just a restoration
I see.
mitigation piece of it that I almost saw something that ConsCom would want to see, so
I mean, the
I did
plan,
not, but.
the plan that we submitted and the reason we continued the hearing, which was first scheduled a couple weeks ago, was I had spoken with Amy and she kind of gave me some guidance that might be, I think the word was a heavy lift, to get a waiver from that. And, you know, I'm fortunate in that my client is flexible, so I talked to him about jogging the building and he was fine with it, so that's what we did.
When was the wetland delineation done?
We originally did it in the winter, in January, but again, after speaking with Amy, I had my wetland scientist go back out there shortly before we resubmitted. He walked the whole line,
It's
we
like
did have one.
March 23rd, 2018, I think, was it March?
No, yeah, it was March, but he came back in May. And
Oh, the initial was
That's
March.
just to verify?
Okay.
just to verify,
I saw
and
March as
as
the
luck would
follow-up
have it,
date.
one flag, well, basically 3 flags changed, right where I didn't want them to, where the peninsula is coming up into the building. So again, we went back and we redesigned around that. So then the rest of the line was good, and we had delineated this thing several times over the years for both permitting and then for Alta surveys, so.
Who is the wetlands delineator?
He's on my staff, his name's Corey Van Line.
Works for the company.
Yeah.
And Green International is looking at the stormwater piece.
Yeah.
They were kind of hoping to be done today, but that was a push. They said
Yeah.
Wednesday at this point.
Yeah, I met them out on the site.
I was gonna ask that
On
went through.
Friday, and we talked about, they'd reviewed the physical plans, they hadn't really got into the analysis yet, so we talked about a few minor changes on the plans, just to summarize them quickly. Luke suggested that we, even though this will contain the 100-year storm, he likes a belt and suspenders approach that has an overflow connection, so we talked about adding an 8-inch overflow connection. We talked about pushing the slope on the porous pavement fire access about 5 feet, basically creating a grass shoulder there so the pavement's not so close to the slope. It'll eliminate a potential breakout issue, which I don't think would happen, but I'm happy to do it. And we also talked about, since the driveway's on about a 5% slope, we're gonna add some water stops or basically check dams under the porous pavement so that you don't get the potential for water kind of running parallel to the ground slope underneath the pavement. So those were the changes that we talked about in terms of physical changes, and once we see what his comments are on the analysis, we'll respond appropriately.
Yeah, is that street that's going into the 50-foot of that isolated wetland, or actually it's not, you said it's connected to, off on the east?
To the east.
To the
Yeah.
east. Is that existing? I mean, what,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's-
this, from the very beginning it was there, right?
Yeah, this
This
actually runs through this property, but it's a private drive or private road to those buildings out back. There's a couple of office buildings that road kind of comes around and curves out this way, and then there's two buildings out here, and that's the access for those buildings to Taylor Street.
So that's not your responsibility? You wouldn't be able to pull that out either? Or both?
No, that's there, and that's their only access.
Yeah, right.
But shifting that.
It exists.
No,
It
it runs
exists.
parallel to 495.
And it's kind of steep
But
too, so it's not
exists.
going anywhere.
They're gonna redo it.
And honestly,
Cut off access to-
the little wetland that's there,
Shifted, not eliminated, but shifted.
Yeah.
I mean, the little wetland that's there, it's created because of those roads, because that's where their drainage goes.
But it's still wetland. We don't differentiate.
And just coincidentally, I'd been out there just previously doing the conservation restriction monitoring for this site and the Monarch Drive one. And when I got distracted by all the flags for the septic system, I was like, what's going on out here? But the conservation restriction piece of it looked fine. So they've been staying out of that.
Is this something you folks want to do a site walk on, or?
Yeah.
I think we should.
Did you stake some of the?
I was waiting to hear when the date
Yeah.
is. Actually, you know what? My surveyor got nervous and he went up there today and started staking. He's gonna stake the limit of work and a few of the building corners, and I think I had him stake the inlet to the rain garden, just so you get a sense of where that is.
Yeah, perfect.
Because it's in the woods. Do you want anyone there when you walk it, or, I mean, you're welcome to go anytime you want.
Good idea if the representative of your firm is there.
Yeah.
How much tree clearing are you doing?
Basically, the tree clearing's going on right in here, where the rain garden's going. I mean, and that's fairly heavily wooded right there. The rest of it is,
And the septic system.
yeah, and the septic system, which is kind of going up the hill towards Monarch Drive. So those two areas will be cleared. We'll have the limit of work staked around the wetland perimeter.
Yeah. The trees can't be a rain garden with our nice sandy soils.
Not with the topography as it is, it'll just flow right into the wetlands. I mean, and probably would have no impact on stormwater management because the wetlands is so expansive on the site, but we would be in compliance with
Right.
MADEP
Yep.
policy.
So, when do you want to set up a site inspection?
Let's see.
My phone with me.
I'm more or less around, but I'm leaving the 27th. I'm gone for 2 weeks, so I can do between now and the 26th.
I'm pretty much unavailable until in that span.
I can also do during the day.
We could take it out in batches too if it's easier. We can schedule more than one if that helps.
Friday afternoon is always good for me.
I was just gonna say Friday afternoon.
Oh, excellent.
I won't be around probably on Friday afternoon for the next couple of weeks. This week I've got to be up in New Hampshire, and then the next one, my son just graduated from college and he's moving to LA, so I'm bringing him out there.
By car?
What's that?
By car?
No, I'm stripping his car. And
Enough of that,
I
driving
know,
kids
right?
across the country.
I'm too
Can't
old
let
to
it go.
drive cross country.
Nah. Okay.
So not Friday afternoon then,
Any other time?
Let's see.
Looks like it's going to be good all week, once we get back through this mess
Yeah.
today.
What about that following Monday, like next Monday afternoon? Would that be a little tricky?
I could do
Monday.
later. Yeah,
Monday's
any day
fine for
would-
me.
Like, late, you mean 6 or 7 or something like that, or what's?
Yeah.
What's the days you can do it early?
Friday.
I can have somebody there, but I prefer to do it myself, just because I know the ins and outs of the project. But if it has to be Friday, I'll have one of my other people be there.
I mean, it's possible I could switch from Friday to a different day if I tell them in advance, so I could change it and then have Monday, Friday, so.
Do you
whatever works.
table it for just a few minutes and see whether we got other site inspections we're gonna have to do, and see whether you're gonna combine them?
Sure.
Yeah, but is he staying? He wants to leave.
What other day, day were you thinking?
I wasn't thinking any particular day. I was just
Oh.
gonna see what earlier times are.
I can't do Wednesday, but I could do Thursday?
Can't do Thursday.
Is it next Thursday? Is that what you
The 28th.
No.
Wait,
And
you're
a majority
gone-
of you guys can do Thursday.
You're going after the 27th.
26th is the last day I could do anything, and
You wanna do it
probably
this
25th.
weekend? This
The
weekend?
25th is probably, I could do like Monday, the 25th. Pretty much any day but tomorrow. But if nobody else is available, then
How
just
quick
wait.
can
Well, it sounds
we
like you
have
and
an
Andrew
answer
can do the
back from
25th.
Board.
Yeah, I can do the
How
25th.
pressing
Yeah.
is this?
And then
It's gonna
maybe,
be-
because I can do the 25th,
I mean,
and then I could take anybody else out.
We'll get someone there whenever you folks can inspect it.
I'm just trying to figure
you
out
go
how much of a
on
rush
Monday,
you
Tom?
are to get a reply.
What time?
Oh, well,
I
I
don't know.
mean, I
6.
think all things
5:30
being
works.
equal,
5:30
we'd
is
hope to
fine.
probably
5:30.
continue
I can
for
go
your next
earlier,
meeting,
but
if that's possible.
I mean, I could probably be there.
I mean,
Um,
it's
Four.
kind of, I mean,
Monday?
since the septic
Yeah.
system hasn't
I
been
was thinking,
designed
you
yet,
know,
is
Noon,
there
we
any
could do
way
lunch.
that
I'm
it
not that early,
might
but
go into the buffer
5.
zone or into
Been
the?
tested.
I could do
It's been
5.
tested, and
5:30 maybe? That should
I know
work.
how big the size is gonna be. It's just, I haven't got, because it's a commercial septic system, and I'm gonna have,
Monday at 5:30?
I'm gonna add advanced treatment to it and that sort of thing. So the design's fairly complicated, but I'm 100% confident it's gonna fit where we show it. We've already tested it with Neshoba, and the results were fine.
So what do you folks come up with?
Monday at 5:30. Sorry.
Oh, no problem.
And then if you can't switch to that, maybe I can go out with you on Friday, the 29th.
Okay,
Oh, that sounds a bad date, but, yeah.
all right.
So that's Monday, the next week from today?
25th.
Yep. At 5:30.
What's the date on that?
25th.
And then maybe Friday, the 29th?
And if you're doing it on the 29th, if you want someone there, I can have someone else go with you.
Okay. Like
And I
to
forgot to
move-
double check. You got me the $300?
Yeah,
Okay.
Kevin dropped it off.
Yeah, that's right, okay.
a couple weeks ago.
All right.
Nice to see you.
Is the hearing, I'll just,
This is very
one
important.
question, is the hearing itself going to be, I assume the hearing's going to be continued to a?
Yep. To July 9th? And the time will be determined later.
Right, then I might have a conflict then, but I'll have somebody do it. And hopefully I'll already have any technical issues resolved with.
Yeah.
with Green.
I gotta leave early. Good night, everyone.
Night.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
Good to see you briefly.
Yeah, probably won't see you again, right?
Yeah.
Okay, continued public hearing, notice of intent, 73 Hotwood, Ave, R17-57, Mass DOP, file number 204-859, construction of a single-family home. Somebody want to speak to that?
Nope, they got denied by Board of Health. Not clear what happened. So they're either gonna redesign or sue. So they asked that this be continued.
Okay.
I think there's some encroachment on the road or something. I don't know.
I was hearing
I don't
many
have
different
details.
stories.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I help you?
I have 10 problems tonight.
Continuing public hearing, notice of intent, phase 2, vacant land, access from Spruce Road. R8130-448,
Nothing yet.
with no complete number, for subdivision, construction of 3 single-family homes and roadway and construction in the buffer zone.
Good evening. For the record, Brian Goodrow with Hancock Associates. So if you recall, last meeting, we continued discussion of these 2 phases post the closing of Phase 1. So to quickly run through this, what I'd like to do is, since we're kind of before you on both of these, describe Phase 2, then describe Phase 4. I think the goal tonight is to introduce the commission to the project, understand any initial concerns that there might be, and then schedule a sidewalk, I would imagine. So this is K Estates, Turkey Farm Estates is to the south. The commission had issued an order of conditions on Phase 1 for Fur Lane. We now have Phase 2, which is Red Cedar Way, and a section of Douglas Road. This is the opposite side of the wetlands from Fur Lane. And then Phase 3 has no jurisdictional areas, and Phase 4 has 3 lots within the wetland that was located down by Grimes Lane. Essentially, stormwater is being handled not unlike it has been through the rest of Turkey and K Estates. We have infiltration basins located adjacent to the wetlands in this area. No grading is proposed or work is proposed within the 50-foot buffer. We are setting erosion control similar to how we did in Phase 1. And then Amy had already commented with respect to possibly taking a look at some of the retaining walls, some of the fill areas, and see if we can't slide that away from the limit of work. Again, what we did on Phase 1 is we set about a 6-foot buffer from the limit of work to the toe of the slope or any retaining walls. So based on sidewalk and comments from the commissioners, we'll be looking to revisit some of those areas and see what we can do to mitigate those concerns. So we have 1, 2, 3 lots within the 100-foot buffer. The road, generally speaking, is outside the 100-foot buffer, and we're really limiting backyards and drainage and grading to that work on Phase 1. So again, Phase 2 does not have any buffer associated with it, and Phase 4 is the second notice of intent. So the end of Douglas Road terminates in a cul-de-sac. The 3 houses that are on that cul-de-sac have some septic system grading and yard grading that are associated in the buffer. And then essentially we have in Turkey a small wetland area followed by an intermittent stream to the larger wetland tract that's tributary across Grimes. There's a little section of wetlands that's projecting buffer onto K. So what we've done with stormwater is we've kind of piped it through the 100-foot buffer and then tried to locate the actual infiltration basin in an upland area towards the rear of these 2 lots. Again, design is very similar to what we did in Phase 1, and again, we're going to be revisiting kind of some of these areas next to the limit of work line once we fully understand commission concerns. So with that said, I'm here to answer questions.
Cross my mind is, when are you gonna make them work?
Make that.
The basins.
So we're actively will be evaluating that. I don't know, did Mike ever get in contact with you on 2 regarding that outlet structure?
When I went out and looked at the culvert for the farm pond,
Mhm.
we discussed it then. I haven't heard from him
Haven't heard
since.
anything. Yeah, so I apologize that Dave's not here this evening, so I don't have any direct answers on timing for when these things will get repaired, essentially.
Yeah.
But we're obviously aware of it, and
Did you see the sheen out there?
I have not been out to
Collecting.
the
You
site,
haven't?
yeah, since the last meeting. And it was in this, with underneath the road as well?
Yep, and
Okay.
into the stream across Grimes.
Where's it coming from?
I don't know, that's my question. It could be biological degradation, but it wasn't obvious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because usually biological degradation will be more blocky, and if you poke it with a stick, it will stay apart. This stuff was kind of blocky, but it came back together.
Yeah.
So I just wanted if you could check that out, because
Yeah.
we did ask 2 weeks ago for
Absolutely.
you guys to check
Is
that
there
out.
water in the basin now?
Yeah, it was,
Yeah. And I
A little
was-
tiny
I was,
bit.
I was gonna
Oh,
stop by
2
tomorrow
is-
morning and
Two-
see what happened
Two should
after
be
this.
dry. It's
Two was
just-
super contracted, like there was a little water like way up here, but this is, it was leaf litter last
Yeah.
time I saw it.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
I'm
so
sure there's plenty of degradation.
So where's the farm pond? There. And then the K property is just over the line, over the boundary line of Durkee, right?
Mhm. So this dark line right here is indicating the line from Durkee to K. And we kind of tried to gray out.
So as part of this K development, you guys obviously contracted to do the K property?
For
Is that what's going on? You're building on the K property?
Correct. So Dave is
So this
is
was-
is now shifting into this. We still, in terms of Durkee phasing, everything is done for Phase 1 and Phase 2, essentially. There's some
So-
yard work that's associated with this. He has 4 lots to build out on
Yeah.
Durkee, and then the 3 lots that were just permitted on K, on First Street.
Right.
So what essentially is going on is he's gonna build this while this dries out a little bit, build this, and then maybe.
So
next year
will we,
move it into Phase
as
2.
part of this, will we be able to find out where some of that water is coming from that goes to the farm pond? That development on K seems to be,
So part of Phase 1 is the only section that would be even remotely tributary to that. And we had discussed that about not actually changing topography and introducing another infiltrate, or another stormwater system to mitigate and attenuate those flows, to further restrict anything from getting into that area.
yeah, I was just wondering if we knew if part of this development, if we could find out, as part of that research that was going to be done, whether we could find out where some of that water was getting into the farm pond, because Jim thought there may be some springs
Yeah.
up in that area, and I just wanted to follow up on that thought.
You see anything seeping out? I
Up
mean,
here, it's high and dry.
It's been so dry.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at
can see
topography.
something seeping out from
Mhm.
here.
If you look at topography, obviously we have the little hill, but generally speaking, it's 280, 278, and the wetlands are down at 264. So there's a pretty large elevation differential between where we know groundwater is and kind of this high area here.
You could
Yeah,
have
there
perched
could be some-
groundwater in springs.
Brooks under, too, some underground water moving towards the pond, too.
Well, we know it's coming from somewhere, we just,
Well, Mish was talking
Still
about it
trying to
coming
figure that
out of
out.
his hill up there.
what's that?
Mish
So-
was talking about it coming out of his hill.
If you've ever looked at his property, it's very specific that there's a big rectangle of trees in the middle of the hill, and that appears to be just a wetland at the top of the hill, and following an intermittent stream that heads kind of eastward next to his house. So that's what he was referring to, and that's in
But I
no
wouldn't
way
be- I wouldn't be a
geographically
bit-
near
I
this.
wouldn't be a bit surprised if there was some groundwater underneath all this that does come to that.
Well, we were supposed to find that out as part of the research for where the water was coming from, as I recall. Not sure if that ever got done.
We felt that that even if we knew where it's coming from, that we would do the same thing, put the culvert in.
the
and
culvert
have
where it
come out
is.
to the other side, that the overflow, and, Yeah, that, I mean, if we do find out where the water's coming from, I guess I would wonder what kind of change we could make that would make a difference. Besides building color.
Yeah, I think that was kind of how the discussion
Yeah.
ended.
We did discuss though last week during construction of this area, which definitely,
Mhm.
a portion of it feeds into, so you
For
were, if
temporary
you could
sediment
point out,
basins,
yeah.
yep, absolutely. And Amy, did I
Basements for
get you
us.
that plan? I recall, I'm not
Which-
sure if
which
I
plan?
remember. Temporary sediment basins and whatnot.
I'm not sure.
If you wanna just
Yeah.
point them out on your
So,
plan,
yeah,
just so
Yes,
what we
yes,
did,
so
what we
we're
did
here and
essentially
the-
is we had a catch-all that was down near Fraser Street
Right.
in the location of drainage. The center of the cul-de-sac was gonna kinda take the front yards, and then to the rear of lot 31, there's actually gonna be a third one, that's kind of the low point on the site. So with these three, areas, it'll collect interim stormwater during construction. Which is not unlike what we did with lot 22, what we did with 26, and the little guy over on 27. And we found that 22 worked very, very well in making sure that nothing was discharged. So we anticipate the same kind of deal.
And where's your line? We were gonna put another line into the basin.
Yeah, just, it's in parallel,
Oh, there
basically,
is,
with the
okay.
existing line right there, yep. And that was all part of phase 1. And then phase 2, again, we have an infiltration area here up near the road. This road pitches down this way. And we have a small infiltration area here to take some of red cedar. And then again, we have this infiltration area for, the high point is basically here. So this section of roadway pitches down, and we'll discharge to that. And this is the wetlands that's on the Durkee property projecting buffer onto the K property. And again, no disturbance within the 50-foot.
I mean, so, it's kind of water over the dam, so to speak. But, because it used to be overland flow, as we all know, so the site, obviously, because of the construction, changed that whole juxtaposition of how that water flowed. If it originally came from that spring, it found its own way down. So, I mean, I think we're at the point that you're talking about now, we're going to send it all through the pipe, but historically, it didn't go through the pipe.
Right.
So now we've changed. Not that there's anything we can do about it at this point, but we've changed the hydrology
Right.
of the site. And I think we just originally wanted to know where that water was coming from so we could just have a better idea of the hydrology, of how things worked and looked and that kind of thing. I think that's all I'm going with at this point. It's probably too late.
Yeah.
I think, how many years do we have left of construction?
Several. I mean, this will happen this year, this maybe 19, then it would be 20, then it would be 21, and this is all saying the economy's gonna maintain at the clip it's been going for the last couple of years. As soon as things start to cool off, this could be 5 years out, 4 years out, I don't know. But the sequence of construction is this will be done this year, and it's anticipated that these lots will be done next year. Forecasting beyond that, I'm not sure.
Or if
And
you
Dave
find-
Cal owes a wetland replication monitoring report.
Okay.
And
For up here?
Yeah, and also the report on the farm pond vegetation model, which is
Oh,
the
that's a
trees
good
are-
point. Okay.
And end of the summer at this point, but some Phragmites control.
When did they mow the field last year? And was it once or twice? Because I feel like we're coming up on the time when the fields were
Probably
mowed.
like the end of July, beginning of August.
So maybe a month.
So if there's any nesting birds in there, they have time to clear out, but,
Richfield, you talking about?
So they mowed open space,
yeah.
all of it, all of the historic fields. So the Phragmite control will be kind of a part
Well,
of
there's
it.
Phragmites in the somewhat potential vernal pool at the crossing Yeah, I think
down
there's,
here.
yeah.
I actually haven't been down there, so.
Yeah, there's
um,
probably monies tucked away in the back that were gonna be controlled.
So what we can do is when Dave re-evaluates this section here, I can send him over here
Yeah.
and roll that in.
Yeah, it looked like this was wetter too than I think initially anticipated. Wonder-
So
I think
thi-
that's where I
this-
was driving down there.
This whole area is where you did the clear cut on the hillside, correct?
Nope, that would be this area
It's
right
that
here.
area, so
Yep.
this is beyond that.
This is beyond that, yep.
And
And when,
was this all forested too?
it is, so the entirety
So
of
it'll be
K
the
is
same thing will
forest.
happen up there?
Um,
So this be one
I mean, we're
clear cut
attempting, we're
shoot down
attempting
through
to,
there?
to maintain some sort of buffer to Mish, but yes,
Isn't
there
there
will
a
be
couple of house
substantial.
lots have been sold off of Grimes Lane that are up there?
So these two house lots are the coffee property, and I believe they were before you end of 16, so a year and a half ago, on these notice of intents. But yes, there are two houses here that are not part of this project, and Dave actually, he attempted to buy them, but it didn't pan out.
Because you were gonna connect.
What we were originally gonna do is put the road right through where those houses were gonna go. Then the properties were sold and the houses were built, so we couldn't do
Some
that.
gyrations to get.
Exactly, and then we were gonna go through the wetland, and then it was determined that that was not, the way to go. So now we ended at a cul-de-sac, and this is the approved plan, that's been vetted by town engineer, DPW, planning board, Green International,
About
fire
fire.
department. It was a
Yeah,
critical
fire.
conversation that we had, to make sure that they would sign off on only having kind of a one way to get in and out, which they did.
When are you doing
Community.
construction here? I thought you guys were talking
It's
about
already-
starting it like.
it's already
in. It is, okay.
It's
Okay.
in as of end of last week, middle of
I
last
saw it just
week?
when they're getting started. I was gonna go out tomorrow and look at that too.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's in right now.
Okay.
So,
Trying to-
whenever we walk this, we
Okay.
can
So
certainly
it might
start
be-
over there if you want.
Okay, because my thought was gonna be, this, if it wasn't in, it needs to get in, so we
Mhm.
have time
Mhm.
for different events, so we can see if it works before the town takes ownership
Oh,
of
absolutely.
all of this, and if we need to tweak it, there's, plenty
Mhm.
of time to.
So I don't think that, I don't
So-
think that Dave is gonna be requesting, like fall town meeting for these roads. I know he wants to put, top coat on because
It has
he's.
to, because the
Because of the
binders.
2-year binder window. So I know, that's gonna happen, but I think kind of holistically across the site, these need to be functioning before we were to petition the town as well.
Did you pull this corner? I think it was this corner.
It was this house,
Oh, it was that, okay.
and,
Has that
we
been
still
pulled back?
owe,
I can't
yeah, we
tell, but-
still, no, this is the
Not yet.
same plan that you saw.
Okay.
So we still owe, a revision on this. I think there's been some back and forth with the Realtor on what the house footprints are gonna be, cause
Okay.
Dave's gonna build these 3 on spec. So he's just trying to figure out what house goes there. But this house is gonna look much more like this house, so it's gonna
Right,
be
it's
shorter.
gonna- yeah.
Exactly, and pull it away
Where does
from
all
that
this
corner.
drain to?
Right now, if you look at drainage, we have kind of a little piece that goes into there. These go into the wetlands here. The high point is basically right here. So this is all going down. This goes off-site here to the wetlands, and then this goes down, and kind of splits between these two. And we've modeled all of these individual points of discharge, in our HydroCAD calculations to verify that we're
all
not.
going to wetlands and part
I
of it's
mean-
going to a retention area?
Well, everything gets treated by infiltration or some sort of best management practice. So any pavement, anything outside of clean runoff, which would be considered a yard or a roof, and the vast majority of those are still being collected by these infiltration practices before they're discharged to the wetlands. And again, with the many different points of analysis, we're ensuring that we're not exceeding existing peak grades.
So are you draining water onto somebody else's property?
We're mirroring existing drainage patterns, and we're actually reducing any water that goes off property.
It can't be reduced.
It
you
is.
know, with the development, as opposed to forested land.
Mhm.
Can't imagine that.
Maybe it was swales.
Infiltration basins.
Correct. So we've done all of our calculations and modeling, changing the curve numbers to shift from wooded areas to lawns to pavement to roofs, and we've designed our stormwater.
I just get worried when you see some of these storms that we've had
And
this
we
past year where we've just completely overflowed these retention basins.
Try
in
tonight.
One,
Yeah.
in
Actually,
one storm.
my road's high and dry, and we had a backing up, brand new too, backing up catch basin. My road was just redone a
You
year.
call me
like a
paranoid,
year
but
ago.
we've been seeing
We're
it
up on a hill.
Well, that was
constantly.
actually one of the first questions the 151 Taylor people asked, was whether or not Littleton had adopted a higher 100-year storm.
So the Cornell numbers?
Yeah,
Not yet.
not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
But we are designed through the
Yeah.
100-year event, which is 6 inches.
Green's
Mhm.
looked at all 4K phases, right?
Yep.
Once.
Yep, the entire, they've fully reviewed the entirety of stormwater.
This
have
gonna
agreed with
require a
us.
site inspection by some of you folks? Trying to- they need
What,
to move
for,
on.
I think
for the second part?
We're
you
just
mean?
doing a continued.
Phase
Yeah,
2 and
we're
4.
happy to continue this evening, and let me know when you would like to do a site walk, and we can go out there and walk it. I would also like to know if there are any specific site features to stake. I hesitate to do the entirety of the limit of work line, just given the fact that we don't know the timing on this. It's a lot of work to have to redo before construction, but if you would like us to do some general roadway and some general limit of work, I'm happy to do that.
For phase 2?
Houses, yeah, for phase 2.
And-
When we get into phase 4, there's not as much, it's all trees, but there's no lower canopy. So you can see site features pretty well. And the wetland flags are obviously there.
Is the center line of the road in place yet?
We have not done that, but can.
Would that be a reasonable thing, so you have some idea?
Frankly, I forget what the good marks out there, if it's the center line of the road and a couple
So
pivotal
not-
house corners or
Okay.
septic systems or.
What I can do is I'll kind of assign some areas and I'll send a sketch to you. And
Yeah.
we can put our heads
limits of work
together
and
on
stuff,
that.
yeah.
Okay.
But the next challenge is when?
Anybody got any idea when they
This would be a longer one,
I'm happy to break it up into multiples
What do you
if
wanna just,
like a Saturday.
we need to.
Saturdays in the summer,
Next couple Saturdays.
that ain't happening.
How about July 4th? You guys must have July 4th off, right?
maybe some people
Be a
do.
night
Farmers never get a deal.
I don't know.
Well, the next meeting's July 9th, so you do have that first week in July, but that is July 4th is Wednesday, smack in the
Yeah,
middle of
that
the
ain't
week.
happening.
So that's a tough week.
I can tell you right now, it's just not gonna happen.
I'm out of town, so I can't. It's,
Yeah.
and actually, I'm not here.
So how quick are you interested in getting a reply on this?
We can work it through Amy, so if you float a couple of times, I'm fine with that. I'm not really pushing too hard on these phases because, again, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, I think we have some time. So the point is really making sure that everybody can visit the site more than anything else.
I'm kinda thinking getting beyond the holiday weeks,
After
people's
July.
vacation.
So it'll be after July 9th. That'd mean missing the next meeting. So I don't know.
What's the following meeting?
23rd.
The 23rd.
7:23. If we could continue tonight to the 9th, and I could follow it up to make sure that Dave is okay with that,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have an issue, but I just need to double check.
Have you figured out?
And if you want me to be there, it'd have to be the 9th, 10th, or 11th.
August. August is right on.
No,
Okay.
July.
Oh.
Well, yeah.
I guess it's kinda-
So why don't you double check with Dave,
Mhm.
and then I'll try to get a few people together.
Okay.
All right.
And I guess one other thing from the staking, I think you're adjusting the grading on that road cut in the vicinity of the habitat the corridor. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of right in this
Yeah, right.
open space area. Yeah, that was
It'd be-
reflected on the last plan.
Okay, it would be helpful maybe to stake it.
Okay, to shift just these back.
Yeah, just to show.
It should already be staked because they installed the erosion control, so
Oh,
the
okay.
erosion control is actually out there right
Okay,
now,
so
so
it's
we'll be able to
easy to
see
delineate.
the wattles and silt fence. So again, we can start over here whenever we decide on the sidewalk,
Yeah.
and then just maybe go through the woods. We'll start at the back side and head down this way.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, just as long as there's something visual there, so we can, because that was an adjustment. Okay.
Okay, gotta move along.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
So let me know what Dave says.
Will do. I'll send you an email tomorrow.
Let's,
No, they are doing another redesign, so they asked to be continued to July 9th.
Thank you.
oh, and a lot of
Nice.
fill-in up there.
Yeah, kind of along the edge with Laurie Lane,
Yeah,
or whatever that is, yeah.
okay. We've got a couple minutes before the next meeting. You were talking about updates or something?
So, I don't know if you remember U-17-200, which is on Forest Road on Long Lake. It was this
Oh, yeah.
one
yeah.
back there.
With the-
Did they donate it to us?
Well, no, he contacted again and said, do you want it or not? And I know
There are piles and
we were
stuff.
going back and forth that it might be going to have, but there's encroachment, so it would cost money to get the bounds and chase somebody to clean things up. So sort of a,
Oh, I thought we decided it was pretty important to the lake to have that property.
that's for you guys to decide. It's gonna come with liability.
What's the liability? Is that,
I believe that the house next to it has been, the previous owner has been encroaching back into there. I think, yeah, I think people on the other side may have been encroaching in. That
just-
one of their fence or wall might be on the property.
let's tell them to move it.
Yeah. I think it's pretty
Somebody's gotta
important.
survey it first.
Yeah, survey it.
You have
Well,
to
and
leave that
Can we
in
get a
there.
donation from a surveyor?
Well, there's
Right.
wetlands on it. Right. Although I guess they
Yes.
wouldn't be able to do anything with it anyways, if there's wetlands on it.
Right.
Right.
I know it's not buildable. It's almost all wetland. I don't know, I would encourage us to accept a donation.
And then,
Is there any,
then we
just
gotta come
take-
up with money.
is
Right,
there any
that's
what I'm saying,
hazardous
just take
material
the-
on
To
it?
take
risk.
something that already has wetland violations on it.
Yeah, but,
So we're in violation.
I mean, it's just the same to have, get a property like Cloverdale and have to clean up all the invasives, or, you know, there's just always probably something to do with, especially with
So
all
you're
these
saying
houses now.
require it, and then at some point have it surveyed,
Yeah,
and then notify the owners that
that they have to pull their property
because the
back.
town's acquired the parcel? Makes sense to me.
I hate these little parcels. They're nothing but trouble.
But this is
Well-
connected.
There's nothing but abutters dump in stuff
Two
in
little
it.
parcels add up to a bigger parcel.
Yeah.
and
Yeah, it's connected to the other
It
town
all,
land.
it all connects. Doesn't
All
matter.
right, so I'll tell them you want it, and
Yeah.
Anna will come up with the money.
I mean, how much do you,
I mean, part
I'm
of it
guessing the
is-
survey has gotta be $5,000 or so.
oh, sure.
And then after
Well,
that,
That's why I was saying, when
Your
anybody
labor.
donate, when anybody donate a survey,
And this is-
I'm always trying to get somebody to donate survey, because we always need survey.
so,
So, yeah, no one's gonna,
But, I mean, I would think that an enforcement, it'll be enforcement, but they would have, the people who transgressed would have to do the work, not us. So I think primary cost would be,
in which case it might make more sense to make them clean it up before you take the
First.
property.
but wouldn't we have more teeth if we owned it?
Was-
I mean, otherwise we're,
You have just as much
Ad-
to
it's
do.
another
ad-
person's
adverse
property that
possession.
we're.
Oh, it's like
trying to-
any enforcement order on someone's property.
Yeah,
But-
but this-
or we just accept it as is, and the people, what they work they've done, and no more, no further.
Yep.
I mean, why would it
I'd
be more
almost be,
expensive?
I'd almost be, go at it from that angle, it's like these people.
It's just gonna have to be another property that's monitored every year.
Right, it is what it is, we put signs on the back and that's it. They're done,
I
you
mean,
know.
it's a valuable part of the lake system, I think.
I don't think I
Connected
get
other-
into an enforcement
Think it's
order and all that
adverse.
crap, I just don't.
I think you're
do it.
dealing with adverse possession is what you're gonna be dealing with.
What do you, what?
Adverse possession,
What's that?
where they've gone over the boundary
Oh.
lines, and it's been for how long?
Right, it's a, I'm
How
How long
saying,
before you can claim
I don't think we
ownership?
should deal with it, I think wherever the edge of
Well, it
what
is, I
they-
mean, it's a wall and a fence that is across the property line, I believe. It's not just, you know, grass clippings and stuff. There is
Isn't it their shed?
structure.
So at the end of their wall, at the end of their fence, that's the end of their work, everything else is town owned.
I'd kinda like to run this by town council, just to see
Yeah,
what.
that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a bad idea to take it, but also have
plan.
have the, yes, and have
Yeah.
the people understand that they don't own it.
Right.
Own that particular,
Well, we could almost have the people come in. We
Yeah.
could almost have the abutters come in and we'll tell them straight out that, you know.
You are now the land steward.
Yeah, but I think that's how, I would approach more from a friendly perspective.
but I think I wanna run it by town council, just see what cause they're gonna get involved with probably a taking.
In any case, yeah. Or we're writing up the documents for the
Yeah, so
transfer.
let them, at least give them the heads up and see what kind of feedback we get from it. And tell them that, you know, we feel as though the neighbor has kind of gone over the boundary line.
Yeah, because that property is part of the infrastructure of the storm drainage of the lake.
Well,
There are
then
pipes, there are pipes leading from that to,
And that is another
The
reason
lake.
why we should probably take it as far as the rain garden or whatever
Right.
else that's up there.
Anything that protects the lake, we should
Yeah.
take.
yes, I think so
Yeah,
too.
so, but it's how we take it, and how we get involved.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea for the council.
All right, I will send him an email.
Okay.
And then, Matt Cahill, I didn't mean to say anything, he's here.
Hi.
Your new associate.
Hi, Carl.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
You can come up and sit at the table, there's a vacant seat here if you'd like.
Then they confuse me with Andrew.
Thanks.
There.
Thanks.
I mean, sit over here at the,
That's a good way to switch.
there is,
You can give your,
I'll wait until I get the feel for the room. I don't want to jump right in and get everyone upset.
yeah, if you have any questions like afterward or something, either, you know, I can hang around or we can chat on the phone or something like that
The
too.
public hearing for 44 Bruce Street was put off for the
Yes.
time being.
Yes.
So we can go along to 9
Sure.
o'clock.
And then I still have a couple more things to swing by, we can do this afterwards.
Continued discussion of Cooper Farm, discussion of enforcement orders, construction updates, Mass DEP file number 204-833, road utilities, and 204-338, and 204-849, houses. Does somebody want to speak to that, or?
Did you say rogue utilities?
Road.
Oh,
I think
ro-
that's just what you heard.
I thought you said rogue, I'm sorry.
That could be too.
My mistake.
I was going back and forth with them about whether they wanted to come in or not, and I didn't get an answer, so I put it on. And I was out there with them today, God bless them, they're out there shoveling silt in this heat. It was like, I felt terrible. But, so they're almost done with the cleanup. They've, I haven't looked at it yet, but they've done some regrading and doing some revegetation on basins 3 and 4. And they agreed they weren't gonna come in tonight because they're not quite finished yet, so when they are, they'll come back and try to get, I think it's lots 4 and 5 released on the enforcement orders as they're moving ahead, but they seem to be staying on top of it.
Okay. I guess you had something else you were talking about?
Yeah, SVT is having a walk at the Smith property tomorrow at 7, because SVT is looking to buy the CR on it, is that correct?
Now
They're-
you're gonna buy the property.
Okay, fundraising.
Conservation Trust owns
Yeah.
the part of the CR.
Yeah. So they're actually having 2 walks, one tomorrow night is kind of more on the Littleton side, and one in August is more from the Harvard side of things.
What
But-
property, sorry?
The Smith property on Whitcomb,
Oh,
right
Is
up
this
against the
Smith's property?
Harvard line.
So
It's a-
SVT is trying to buy it?
They're gonna buy it.
They are gonna buy it?
Yep.
And hold it?
And hold it.
It's a, yeah, beautiful piece of property.
It's great. Tomorrow's walk, I was actually mowing through the 7-acre field. It's an easy walk tomorrow, but it's not the nicest part of the property. Property on the other side, heading out to Black Pond, is really vernal pools and beautiful forest and
Good.
wonderful.
wow.
Great.
Well, they, so does go, is it just the field or to the part that goes through, there's a bunch of larch back in there, isn't there, and black locust and stuff?
Yeah.
Or is that actually LCT
There,
already?
no, that's,
Yeah.
they'll be going through that too. It's a combination of the forest.
So
They
just,
wouldn't have gone through.
just so you know, if you want, and SVT just ask people to register if you are going, but.
You
So-
realize that was mostly pasture when I was growing up, and it wasn't a bunch of Christmas trees.
Really? Yeah, no, I'm sure.
So this obviously drains on the Concord River side of things as opposed to Nashua River side
It
of things.
for all I know, it drains two different ways, because it definitely drains to Beaver Brook,
Yeah.
but on the other side, Black Pond. I'm having trouble remembering.
Yeah, I know.
where the
Yeah,
river is.
I don't have, no, I can't picture where
It's
it goes.
kinda watershed.
Mhm.
Right.
I got a complaint, but have not gone to look at 5 Scott Road on Mattawanakee, which is Peter Scott's property, about some building or something that's been going on back there. So I'm gonna have to try to go figure out what that is, unless somebody wants to come along with me.
When?
I've been putting it off for a week.
I'm around, like during the day this week. We can pick a time.
All right, yeah, I was gonna try to scout it out, because I'm not sure if you can really see it from the road or not, because
Sure.
I think the house is gonna be in the way of seeing the
Yeah.
lakefront, but,
Okay.
what's the situation on the fire department is actually if you drive around Mattawanakee Trail, you can look back on it.
I'll be available after 4:30 this week, because
All right. Well, let me, I was gonna go out tomorrow and just see if I can even see anything without going crazy, otherwise the
If
fire
Julie-
department has
if-
offered me the boat.
If you can make it,
Yeah.
Julie, it'd probably be helpful to keep Amy company.
Yeah.
Would be my guess.
Always love company.
Sure.
And then we had talked before about the stewards were getting a sample kiosk, a template kiosk done that can be used for all the future stuff, and did get a materials estimate for it, and it would probably be used for the new Oak Hill parking lot, is that correct? Use that as a sample. Materials come in at $543. So I don't know if you wanted to approve that expense?
How much did you say?
$543.
I would like to hear a motion for $550.
So moved.
All those in favor?
second
Aye.
How about,
Aye.
excuse me, how about up to 600, because I'm not sure that the hardware, he has nails and screws in there for $50, but there are gonna be some sliding things and locks and stuff like that.
I'd like to amend my motion to up to $600 for materials and screws for kiosk.
I'll second that.
The only question I have is where are we taking that money out of the Oak Hill, fund?
I would presume.
Huh?
I would presume.
Okay. Just so we-
There's money.
So we know, that's all.
Yes, yeah, that was gonna be my next, yep.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Yeah,
Aye.
okay. $600 it is, for the time being.
And that was all I had.
And we still got 5
Actually,
minutes.
that's not really complete. That's the cost of the materials. I asked Chris for a quote on what he would do it. He may do it for free, but I haven't got back from him.
Oh, so that's
For
not
late
really-
labor, you mean?
Yeah,
But is that still open as far as the completion of the parking lot? So it would come from,
Yep, that's all done. No, the money for the parking lot has all been expended. There was nothing left over.
it's cleared, it's sort of sold up at this point, I guess is what I'm asking. So we can't just add it to that parking lot cost?
Correct, yeah. It wasn't on the original CPC list of things that money was, and the money was used anyway, so.
Okay.
But if we approve 600 tonight, I guess you could he come back and we could just add to it? Like, put another
Come in with an
additional-
amended cost?
For labor?
If need be, unless he's
Because we
willing
don't
to
know,
volunteer.
we might have a better idea of cost then.
Yeah.
He might well do it for free. He's that type of person.
So let's see if that happens and then come back.
But otherwise, if he says for free, I can tell him to go ahead.
Guess it depends how busy. It sounds like he's pretty busy because he's been putting stuff off for a couple of years.
Chris hasn't been doing it. I think that's been us. Chris is a volunteer that's fairly newly on board.
I had to get a visit from MassCore, Massachusetts Corrections, from a very energetic guy, and they can do almost anything because they have a lot of, training going in there, so signs, benches, potentially even kiosks, T-shirts, printing. I was like, ooh. And I don't think they can provide the labor for boardwalks, but you never know. But they would deliver anything for free. The rates apparently are really good. I haven't even looked into it yet, so it
Why not?
could be interesting. And I guess the program has always been there, but it's always been very hard to
Get
track
onto.
down, to get a hold of. But this guy and his cohort, they both sound like they're really trying to modernize the whole thing, and boy, he's gung ho. So
Okay.
How about a bench for Peter on Bumblebee Park?
I don't know if they work in Granite, but you never know.
It's just,
So it's, yeah, it sounds
we got the,
like if they can
got
think of
the-
a way to do it, they'd like to take it on. I don't know if they deliver Granite for free, but otherwise it was free delivery. And free delivery for nonprofits. They will also do work for businesses, but they won't deliver for free to private businesses. So,
okay. Well, I suppose we could have an informal discussion, so maybe we get lucky and get out of here.
We can start the discussion
Yeah.
as it goes.
Discussion, Cloverdale parking lot, 9:15. We're a couple minutes early, but we can, if anybody shows up, we'll have to go back over it.
Well, we could go back to the update. We never really talked about the
About what?
farm culvert.
in terms of,
Yeah.
There was that update.
Certificates of
Farm.
compliance.
Oh,
Possible
that's
requests.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah, because a while back, Dave Guthrie said he might want to come in for certificates of compliance, so I kind of put it on there, so it was on the agenda. But they haven't brought it back up again, so I wasn't going to.
Okay.
They haven't applied for any of them yet.
Okay, I'd like to hear a little bit about the Chestnut Lane extension activity, just,
Oh, yeah, they
Yeah, we're
never made it,
supposed
did
to-
they?
No.
They may still
Come back
show
to it.
up. But let's see. So there's 4 notices of intents out there. One was for the subdivision road, and that's basically done. I can't remember if they have their certificate of compliance or not, but that's for the main road.
did they
then-
had the top coat?
Maybe not.
They dug it up.
It's not accepted yet, so,
I was gonna say, they dug it up to go across those houses that run parallel to the cul-de-sac. The ones we've been going around with.
Oh, the
okay, yeah,
retaining
so the
wall.
subdivision road was one filing. That's fairly straightforward, I think. Then, and that was like 649, and then 650 is the private common drive that goes up the hill. And that's the one that had the wetland crossing on it, and they need to do some work to the bridge. And I've been bugging them for quite a while, because they never did the wetland mitigation when they put it in the first place.
Mm.
And I just realized I've been bugging them for like going on 3 years now. They're trying to get a handle on that. They're ready to work on the bridge. I said, no, because you need to tell us what you're doing, because it sounds like it's more than just repointing some stones, rebuilding a wing wall and stuff. So I said, no, you got to come back into you guys. I assume you would want to see that work, some discussion of it to some level.
Yep.
They're asking for a occupancy permit for the first of those two houses that we've been dealing with most recently, the one up on the hill. And the only issues I have in that area, besides general cleanup type stuff, is, what was it? Oh, they haven't built a detention basin yet. They're supposed to, near the front. And they put in a paved pull-off or parking area at the bottom of the driveway that goes up to that house.
I thought it would be gravel.
Yeah, weren't we were talking about a gravel one.
So I'm standing like, wait a minute, what's this? And I wasn't entirely sure if it was in the buffer zone or not, and I was like, I'm not gonna figure this out, you guys figure this out and tell me. So,
We had a lot
I
of
also, I
discussion
could
about
not
that.
remember, and neither could they, if that common driveway was entirely, in terms of an order of conditions, entirely triggered to one house or the other, or if it was split between the two of them. I thought it was attached to only one of those houses, but I can't remember. And I pulled the file and haven't looked through it yet. But their argument was that, well, can you release the occupancy permit for the house that's ready to go, but hold the building permit on the house in the back, which they haven't started yet, while the rest of the stuff gets cleaned up? I said, that's up, I wasn't gonna do it, it's up to you guys. So I had initially told him, and so I'm going back and forth with Paul Gass, who's the owner, saying, I was just gonna lay this out to you guys and let you know what's going on. They're more than welcome to come if they wanted to, and,
So the house they want the certificate of occupancy is the one with the big wall.
yes,
That they've replaced once.
How is the big wall doing?
still there, still straight as far as I can tell.
And then the bridge, is all the issues are all cleaned up with that?
No, that's the one, is a different order of conditions, but that's the one they need to rebuild to some degree or another.
What, you said there was a retention area or that went with this house they're trying to get released?
That goes, oh, and there he is.
There
Oh, there you are.
That goes with the common driveway in front of those two houses. I was gonna draw, 'cause none of the plans show everything. So you've got the subdivision road that comes in. That was really bad. And then there's the common driveway, and this house is done, this house hasn't started yet. And then this comes out, and this is where the bridge is. So there should be a detention basin, sort of kind of in this general area. You with me? And there's the driveway comes like this, and there's a paved parking area there, which was not on the plans.
Wait,
And then-
in the road?
No,
Oh.
this is not to scale. And scale's not even the issue here either.
Yeah, I would say
You were doing real well until you put that
Spatial.
in there.
Yeah, and then, and the wetland mitigation was originally kind of proposed in here, might not really work there, and,
The house with the check, is that the one with the wall that we're talking about?
yes.
I thought
I
that,
thought the
Yeah.
parking lot was up near there, yeah,
Yeah.
right
No,
there.
okay, fine, they put in sort of a, so it's almost like if they have a guest or they need to pull over, because there
Oh, I
was,
thought it was
there
gonna be
there was
next
one,
to the wall.
there is
yeah,
one down
that's
there.
the one we, okay.
that's the only
Which,
one.
I think that's there, yeah, that's there, I
Yep.
think. So, that's done, but
Gravel.
there's, and that's gravel,
Okay.
but there's
Oh,
a,
okay. How
there's
about that?
paved patch down here.
Oh. Like,
Yep.
actually off the road, just an extension?
Yeah.
Where's the
They,
buffer?
there's a line of boulders down here.
Yep.
So they didn't go past that line of boulders,
Okay.
but it's what had been grass.
I see.
And I can't remember exactly how that paved area and the base and all that stuff fits, but.
But if they haven't, if the retention area you're talking about went with that house and it hasn't been done, why should we sign off on it?
Well, that basin is to handle the driveway stuff, and yes, admittedly, that basin should have gone in first. It just, like other things, never got built.
Wait, where's the basin? I'm sorry, supposed to be?
Yeah, actually, there's supposed to be a bit of a swale down to the detention
Yeah.
area. And then that replication is here. There's a finger of wetlands that comes in here. So I think this was supposed to, incorporate into that. At the time of staking out for the driveway, we finally came across the plan that showed this replication area.
Oh.
It was, for whatever reason, it was hard to find. We finally found the plan that showed it. I gave it to the surveyor. So they came out and they staked this while they were staking everything else. And when I went out and looked at it, it became obvious that somebody was sitting in an office and said, oh, here's an area with the square footage we're looking for. But they never walked it because in that area, there's some ledge and boulders. And when you look at this,
So you had to
it's
blast it.
giant boulders and trees grown around them. It would be the last place I would want to excavate for a replication area, because you're gonna do so much damage trying to remove what's there to get to the elevation you want, that I called Amy and we went out and did a site walk, and I showed her why I didn't think, that that was viable. So we did walk around to see if there might be, you know, a better area that would serve the purpose. We did actually find an area directly, as you're looking at that picture, to the bottom of the cul-de-sac that might be much easier access. And if I could go back up.
That's associated
This
with
is,
the
yeah, this,
voting on tonight?
I don't know
I'm
that
looking for
we've gotten
guidance,
there yet.
basically.
this,
We're not voting tonight for occupancy?
yeah.
Well, I look guidance whether or not you wanna let me sign off on an occupancy permit or not. Because there's so many other issues.
Right, doesn't
Whether
sound
some
it.
are different order conditions and stuff, but there's a lot going on out
So-
there.
So this wetlands is connected through this crossing here for this common drive. There's actually an area that was cleared over here directly adjacent to it. There is a detention area in here. So it was felt that there was access in here and there was a possibility that the replication could take place, since this is technically the same wetland. And this was the crossing that caused the replication in the first place. So that, I think, a better possibility, but we need to have a wetland scientist go out and confirm that, just to make sure that if we're gonna change it and make the effort to get it done right, that we really have got the right spot. But certainly it's got far more potential than what was shown on the original plan.
How about further along there, along that roadway, is there any place so it's connected to the roadway more?
In
I basically told them they need to go out and find.
this area, it's heavily wooded, and it slopes down more significantly off the common drive in this direction, or in this direction, whereas this is much more gentle, and it'd be much easier to get the equipment in there to perform it, and less clearing. So that was the main reason for that
So it's
choice.
the house-
But that doesn't tie it to the houses.
Yep.
Yeah, the checkmark house is the one you want occupancy for?
This is
Right.
about 12, right?
Yep.
And this is 13.
So,
So is this mitigation connected to the house number 12?
No.
No,
It's
it-
connected,
I
it's
believe
connected to
it's
this separate private driveway that goes up to the top of the hill.
Yeah, it has nothing to
But
do
the
with.
new parking space is
The new parking space
connected to
and
lot
the basin.
12.
was the new parking
And the
space
basin.
part of the plan?
No.
Can you talk about the
That's
detention
parking,
basin then and the
this is
parking
the
area?
basin, this was gonna be.
Yeah, just.
Like what happened there?
Well, just so we're all clear, the replication area that was over here, that we're talking about moving,
Yeah,
that's tied to an order of conditions for this crossing.
okay.
That's a separate order of conditions. There is an order of conditions for 12 and another order of conditions for 13.
So what's connected to 12 that we'd have to decide about occupancy going for? Like, that's
Um,
maybe not done, or,
The basin is not built, and there's an extra parking area, or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
What about the
And where's the
bridge?
buffer
What
in
about the bridge
relation?
That's a
crossing?
separate order of conditions.
Connected to what?
It's connected to this field
That's,
here.
that's connected to, no, the one, isn't there another?
No.
Maybe I'm confusing my, okay, that's the crossing?
Yeah.
Right, there's
We
no
had to-
crossing.
We had to
for
fill
this.
in the wetland.
So can you talk about the basin then?
This one?
Yeah,
Okay.
if that's connected to that house.
Swale
We need
basin.
to know why
Well-
the basin isn't built.
Yeah, I can't honestly answer exactly why not. I do know that towards the end of last year, I think it was in November, there was a push on to get this portion paved with a binder because of the end of the year before they closed the asphalt plants. So I know the surveyor went out, staked it. When the binder went in and I went and looked at it, this little turnout was there. You're right, it was not on the original plan. It is directly opposite where this ties in. It's a very small, I wish I had measured it. It is a much smaller than you'd expect turnaround.
It's like the size of the table?
Yeah.
Not too much bigger, but yeah. it's
Yeah.
small.
So all I can do is, according to the owner, it was, I came in one day, pulled in, I had to back out. I figure somebody else is gonna have to do that, so I just had them add, I don't know, if it was 6 feet to this side in a small area to give somebody the ability to turn around without trying to turn around up by the house.
End up on the wetland.
Is it in a well?
Well, where's
where
the
the
wetland
basin's
buffer in
That is in
relation?
the buffer zone.
It's in the buffer zone.
Yeah, it's not that close to the wetland.
But
Again,
it's
not
in
to
the,
scale.
but it's within, but it's within the buffer
Yes.
zone.
Correct.
How far?
I don't know. It is.
But we've
it
had
is-
other situations where people have moved structures within the buffer zone and it's been an enforcement.
Well, there is, when they started the construction, they built a boulder retaining wall
Yep.
along this side.
Yeah, I recall that.
Yeah, and it turns and it comes down and then comes back up. So it is still on the construction side of that, so they haven't, they didn't clear an area that was otherwise natural to do that.
Mhm.
But they did,
But there's
They
pavement
are in-
closer to the wetland and
Right.
pavement that was not part of our.
right, I just wanted to
standards.
clarify.
Yep.
that, They didn't knock trees down to do it.
Yep,
type of thing.
we've had other
And
situations
there's
where
no
they didn't
question
knock
that,
trees
that the
either.
downside of the boulders
Mhm.
needs cleaning up, and all that, but nothing
Yeah. we've
too
been
terribly
asking that
serious.
for a
But
year.
these were the most egregious ones I saw that were
Yeah.
potentially pertinent to Lot 12 and the building, and the occupancy permit.
Okay, what about the basin? I still haven't heard why that's not built.
They just haven't got to it as far as I know.
But that's tied to the house?
Well, it's.
Yes or no?
No, it's tied to the common driveway. It doesn't serve a function for the house
But
as
it's
far
part of
as.
the order conditions.
It's in the order of conditions.
Yeah.
Because the house is creating the situation
Yeah.
where the
Yeah, the
drainage
house
is
is
needed
part of
for the basin
There's your answer.
Well, actually,
and part of the roadway.
there is another smaller basin
Mhm.
over here. And the roof drains
Oh, I
and
remember.
foundation
Yeah, I remember
drains
that
tie into
conversation.
that.
Yeah.
This is also a low point in the driveway, and they put crushed stone infiltration trench along the side before the wall, and that also drains in another drain over to this detention area. So we're picking up runoff from this side of the driveway and the roof and dumping it in here. This detention basin was just to pick up this beginning section of the driveway. Any of the runoff was to be directed this way to the swale and then into the detention area.
Just country drainage there, no curb or anything.
Correct, yeah. And then there will be another detention area over here for 13.
So it sounds like if the order conditions for that basin isn't fulfilled, you should issue an occupancy permit.
I agree.
Like with the course of things, the way things go up there, you kinda gotta.
I think we need to
Put their feet to
force,
the-
I think we need to, right, force their hand, if they want a certificate of occupancy, do what you're supposed to do. And then
It
we'll,
should be complete, like,
that's my 2 cents, I agree.
Amy, how do you feel? Is that reasonable?
That's where I was heading, especially because this has been going on for so long.
Right,
I wanna have a little leverage.
so is,
Don't give up our
have
leverage.
we finished the business with that?
And you're coming in at some point, because you have some changes to lot 13, it's getting pulled
Yeah,
away from
I
the
did bring a
wetland bit.
plan if you wanted to see it, or I could submit 2 copies tonight.
Yeah, I think we'll
as
need a formal, yeah.
Yeah, what's what expired in June 2017? That's the other.
Oh,
thing.
right, that was,
Extension
yes, correct.
mitigation. So is the extension down to lot 13, or is that the cul-de-sac? Something in
204,
different-
650 is the bridge down here.
Oh,
That's
okay.
expired. The 2 houses and the
Got it.
common driver.
Right.
Are
Current.
different.
And
Okay.
what's happened is the lot line between 12 and 13 was adjusted with a new A&R plan. And for the sole purpose of moving the house for lot 13 towards 12, closer to the common drive.
Yep.
If you recall,
Yeah,
there
it was
was.
like a year ago or so.
Right, there was
I
a
think.
finger of wetlands that came
Yep.
up close to the back of that house.
Yeah.
So by doing that, we moved the house, so now we're slightly over 50 feet from the house to that finger of wetlands. We're still maintaining, I think it's 72 feet from the wetlands to, according to that board, to the south. So it seems to be a win-win on that change.
Okay.
So let's go back to the replication with the bridge. Has that, I'm hearing that's expired,
It expired, what, about a year ago?
A year ago, June 2017. That's what-
that's gonna, what, would take an enforcement order to get that to get done because it's expired?
Well, technically, you can just ask for a whole new notice of intent. I think practically, most of the time, you've been willing to extend expired things, especially if it's about to get fixed and finalized and closed out, theoretically, with the last bit of the bridge repair.
Yeah.
So you can go anywhere from, they would have to submit a request for an extension along with whatever work is Ducharme Dillis, I think, doing the.
Right, they
the
have
plan
hired
for the
somebody
bridge.
to look at that crossing for the structural end of it.
Do you know who?
So they're putting together
Oh.
a game plan on how to stabilize that.
I mean, if they reissue it, haven't things changed? And with our new regs, we've got new mitigation requirements, so it would change the whole game plan for that.
I think we need to see some action, though, honestly.
Yes,
If we don't
yeah,
see
yeah.
some action, I'm inclined to, what evidence do we have that, you know what I mean? Like, and I think you're probably the messenger a bit at this point, but, I mean, this is, we need to see some action on meeting these
absolutely.
obligations
Yep.
versus choosing the economically, the economic choice and having obligations that are just continuously not met. That's just not acceptable. We don't let, others get enforcement orders, I mean, I think we're close to that point here.
How about giving them incentives
and I
saying
think
that,
Obligations need to be met,
yeah.
you know.
that They submit a plan by such and such date. If they don't, then we're going to,
You can do a whole new
require
notice of
them to-
intent.
Yeah.
Would 30 days would be reasonable to have them submit something.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's all right.
30 days.
Well, the next submission deadline is July 11th for the July 23rd meeting. So that means you need to make the submittal date for the August, whatever it is, meeting.
Yeah.
Does that sound?
July 11th then?
Well, July 11th.
Or the next one out, which is, I forget.
So that's more like 3 weeks. Is that what I'm thinking?
To submit for the first August.
Yeah.
25th.
Would you be able to do it in 3 weeks?
It'd probably be like
Thought you
July,
said they were working on it.
Right, that's why I'm thinking
24th
the
or
11th
25th,
is
something
probably
like that.
doable, even if it's a little shy of 30 days. I just picked 30 days. But
Something's gotta
Safety,
happen,
so-
like this.
Yeah,
So
Thin
submit
ice,
by
I mean, this
11th,
isn't
the
good.
11th, or you're looking at a new NOI. About that. I'll make a motion to that effect. Is that-
You hear a second?
Second.
I'm not sure what you're moving. I think maybe just say, is there a consensus?
Oh, you don't have to vote on it?
What?
Well, you need
I
to
would
build,
think you
build
would.
a little leeway in there. You got the holidays and all that crap, good things happening.
Right,
People
so,
on vacations.
well, he
and
said he can do it, so.
We've heard it before.
So move to require submission by July 1st.
11?
July.
July 11th.
Eleven.
July 11th, thank you. So-
I'm losing ground every
I know,
day.
every time, yeah. Okay, for the request for an extension as well as the proposed plan for the bridge repair
No, mitigation, or is that what you mean?
and mitigation, yeah, as well as the
That
bridge
has to be
repair.
repaired?
Yeah, that's,
Oh.
so for all I know, there's gonna be more impact.
And we're not gonna, we're not gonna give them an occupancy permit or
No.
sign off until we do the basin anyway?
Right.
Is that the
Yeah.
consensus of the
Yes.
board?
Yeah, yeah, it's,
Considering the two aren't exactly tied together, but they,
So you want the basin done, and do you want any kind of text, or at least showing on the plan, this new little parking area thing?
I would think we need a plan, though, to see exactly the
Yeah.
dimensions and.
Yeah.
and if
be able
it's,
to
if
make a
there's
decision.
stormwater implications or drainage implications, because if, you know, the road is supposed to drain into this basin and then that parking area dumps it to where it's, you know, I can't tell because I don't have a plan in front of me. But I think we need to look at a plan with it there with, you know, whatever the new topography is.
Yeah, it'll work well for the swale because it creates, it's
Mm.
where there should be a break
Sure.
to keep
Okay.
the water towards the swale.
Going to the
And not,
correct
keeps the
direction.
cars out of
Yeah.
the wetland.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we need to see it, like that.
Always key.
Working off a dry erase is,
Okay.
But we want the stuff completed.
yes, sir. I get it, I got the message.
Well, does Mr. Gas get it? That's the next thing.
Well, he'll get an email in the morning, so,
All right.
all righty,
And the rates have gone up on notice of intents and all that kind of stuff.
they have.
Yes,
Yep.
Oh,
extremely. So,
I'll have to check
That
that out.
might
Is there anything else?
No.
Okay,
thanks for coming
Thank you.
discussion. Who wants to talk about the parking lot or whatever? I'm forward.
When you make a formal submission.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
might as well come up. And the boardwalk, construction of the boardwalk.
So what are we talking about?
So why don't we keep them separate for right now? So basically just for the parking lot, I'm not sure, I can't remember who was there. The Board of Selectmen basically agreed that the parking lot was a good thing
Viable.
to chase and do. They liked the site and were impressed by the proposed plans, so they basically provided consensus that, you know, we can go ahead and start, you know, talk more to DOT and move it along, with the understanding to be at least next construction season before anything actually gets done, but that gives us about a year to pull together and look at funding, so.
Okay.
And there's at least access there now anyway to bring material in for the boardwalk.
Yes.
That can
Yeah,
be
and
used.
nobody took a picture, but I guess at the site walk, there were like 10 cars or something parked.
There's 10 or 11 cars here.
Yeah.
No, we should be able to
So who needs a
bring
parking
in
there?
material there without any problem.
Yeah.
Other than I would put a restriction on it when it's extremely wet, that people be very careful about where they drive so you don't
Yeah, I read it.
Stay there.
make it a mess out of it. That would be the only.
Yeah, because it is a bit of a rise to get out onto Great Road.
I can't remember whether, are we planning on using your house or your?
Yeah, we can use
For
my
cons-
driveway for.
Well,
for
before
construction.
we get it in the boardwalk, we talked with the attorney about reading this, about the open meeting stuff.
Would you like to read it?
Oh, I think the chair was asked to read it
Yeah.
upon opening the Cloverdale discussion again.
Statement for June 18th, Cloverdale Boardwalk Public Hearing 204-863. On February 5th, 2018, the Little Conservation Commission held a proper noticed public hearing on a notice of intent submitted for the purpose of the boardwalk at Cloverdale Conservation Land. The commission accepted public comment during the hearing. After the commission continued the hearing, the commission moved to a new topic related to the Little Land Stewart and Conservation Trust ongoing project. During a review of this work, the commission appeared to discuss for 1 minute a matter related to the Cloverdale property. Namely, the commission addressed the Department of Transportation and the Board of Selectmen role when approving a curb cut to the property. The commission expressed its concern that obtaining the curb cut approved, which would take significant time and was central to the overall project. Chuck DeCosta, Board of Selectmen, shared that he would reach out to DOT regarding the design and the timeline. The video of this conservation may be reviewed on LCTV website. The conversation commenced at 2 hour and 6 minute mark. The curb cut, if authorized, would be located on the upland property and not likely under the jurisdiction of the commission under the Mass Wetlands Protection Act or Littleton Wetlands Protection Bylaw. A request for the curb cut from DOT would occur through the Board of Selectmen in conjunction with the commission, the owner of the land. As such, the commission recognizes that the discussion did pertain generally to the Cloverdale Park parcel. Moved forward, the commission will ensure that discussion related to the Cloverdale curb cut occurs during a noticed agenda item, and at the time similar to that of the Cloverdale Boardwalk public hearing, when the public hearing is also on the agenda. This is in regards that we had the people filed a grievance against.
And it never got filed with the state. It was a
Yeah.
informal discussion, but.
They
Okay.
it was filed against me anyway.
Okay.
So.
So the boardwalk, when last we talked about it, which was quite a while ago as the prices are continuing to go up, I believe the only outstanding issue was the mitigation for the areas where it was actually landing on it. And I think you all had seen this.
Yeah.
You want to pass one of those down there, Carl and Rachel. So when for the grant application for the original notice of intent, I did a very rough estimate. So I drilled down to a little bit more with Jim's help. It looks like between the pipes and the concrete blocks, it's a little over 204.5 square feet of impact. So given that DEP's comment was that in order to meet water quality certificate standards, mitigation would be required, which otherwise may not be required. And water quality cert requires 1.5 time impact. 200 square feet, I figured shoot for 300 square feet of impact. Actually, my target was 325. So you can see for some of the pictures, if you remember, there's sort of a berm out there. You go down, there's a little narrow wet spot, then you got this old berm where fill material put in, and then you go into the major wetland. So it'd be a fairly straightforward and relatively easy to guarantee success to take out that berm, go down to native grades, reseed it, because it's all emergent vegetation in there, and call it a day.
I wasn't sure why the increase was more than the 1.5. Why did you go up from that?
I just kept rounding up, just because it's kind of a small number to begin with, and going up an extra 50 square feet is like one claw of a backhoe. So it's and frankly, I think getting rid of at least part of that berm is probably beneficial. It's very mounded and pitted, which you can really see if you climb out on there. And we are discussing that, hopefully what the guys with the excavator would be able to do is wheel out there on the berm, take out the material they need to, and kind of fill some of those holes so that in the future it can be mowed, so all the invasive species out there can be better controlled. Because right now you really can't mow it, because it's just way too.
I was curious, where on the berm would you excavate? Right where the boardwalk is going to be?
Yeah.
Right at the end of the boardwalk, into the pasture area.
Because wouldn't that, to excavate it and then cover it with a boardwalk?
That part of it would not count as mitigation. It'd be the part that's not.
Outside
Yes,
of the
yeah.
boardwalk? Because wouldn't that, it's less efficient than doing a separate one, because then you wouldn't be covering the area you just excavated and tried to restore.
Well, basically, it makes it easier to build the boardwalk, and especially in the future, if it ever is to become accessible, because you don't have to go up and over.
Go up and over, yeah. It's
a
a
little
great,
bit of the
it really
boardwalk
is a
there.
great place to take it out.
Right now, to get materials
I
up
thought
and
it
over, that
required
would be.
more boardwalk, though, wouldn't that be
No.
more expensive?
But in terms of mitigation, we're only talking about the area underneath the
But
pipes.
the landing for the
It's very
boardwalk
little.
already extends past, because you got that other little wet area before it, so the boardwalk was already gonna
It's already gonna
span that
cross it.
area anyway.
Is there any reason we can't make the boardwalk accessible right from the get-go? Do we have any accessible trails in the town right now?
We don't really.
No?
I understand the boardwalk
be a
itself
park.
is
The boardwalk
accessible,
itself is.
but getting to it is not, and the idea is at some point in the phase to be able
That's
to
kind of
get
phase
to it, like
3.
phase 2, yeah, phase 3.
Get the
we may
board-
be able
phase
to-
4.
The slopes may actually work for accessibility, the way they go, but I haven't.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to put some kind of edge on the boardwalk.
We're gonna
There
have-
is.
We're gonna have. an
There
area.
is,
Yeah.
okay.
There'll be a bumper on
D-
it.
DCR required that.
They suggested it.
They suggest, that's right, they didn't require the.
Yes, so
built that
that'd be
into
my
the-
vote to try and make it.
That's what we are trying to do, and that's what, taking out this berm makes that possible. We don't have to go up and over.
So the boardwalk itself will not be a barrier, it will be accessible. And the parking lot can be made so that it would be accessible, then you just gotta
That'd be great.
connect them.
Right, the connection.
So
is
you gotta get the grades. It may not be 100% meet ADA 100% because of the grades, and it's probably not gonna be paved, I'm assuming, to get down there, so.
Maybe by the time we have our loop,
But yeah,
we'll be able
so,
to cruise down to the boardwalk.
just can't get back.
No, go around and a little bit of a climb, but they actually would be able to meet the grades coming back, might be easier.
Of all the areas in town, that would be the
Well,
best.
that's kind of what I'm
accessible-
thinking.
Yeah,
I think
Right.
it makes
Yeah.
the most sense.
It would,
Right.
it would be phenomenal to be able to get out there. Although I still think the
But
best one
moving
is, was
this-
that Concord Road?
Right.
Berm is.
Out at Long Lake?
Not yet.
Not a paper
Oh,
road, but
it's-
Colonial
Colonial,
Drive.
Colonial Drive.
Drive,
Drive.
yeah, that's almost perfectly flat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For another
At
day.
some point.
So I guess I don't understand, the berm, I would think that, you keep saying that they won't have to go up and over, but wouldn't your boardwalk end and then start again? It wouldn't, you wouldn't have the boardwalk go up and over the hump.
No, we're not going to, the hump is gonna disappear, and the boardwalk will go through where that berm was.
So wouldn't you,
But that's-
then it wouldn't be more expensive, because you'd have to add that extra length
We do
of
have to add
boardwalk.
that. We do,
So-
but that's,
But it's like
I don't know,
5 feet.
well, no, it's more than that.
We
It's
can-
probably
That's like 20.
maybe 30 feet.
We can
but
do that with donations.
Still, it's,
like, wouldn't it, but I still don't understand why it wouldn't be easier and better to take a different part of that berm out, because the berm extends.
because then we'll have to,
way
then we'll have to go up and over the berm.
You're killing 2 birds with 1 stone.
First-
You've got the excavator out there,
Yeah.
so you can make an accessible
Oh,
access to the boardwalk.
excavator wouldn't have to go up and over, is
No,
that
no,
what
no.
you're
Well,
No, while the excavator is sitting there, it can dig out the berm, but it go a little bit further so that the boardwalk can be, and the area leading to the boardwalk would be flat. Otherwise, a wheelchair is not gonna be able to go up and over the berm.
Oh,
So it'll make it
so it's an
accessible.
accessibility issue.
Yeah.
For wheelchairs.
Plus, construction would be much easier if it's a straight shot off of the pasture rather than up and over this
Right.
tumbling hill.
Okay, all right.
Well, that's true, just because we're gonna be taking
I
a
mean,
lot
there'd be
of material up and
wheelbarrow
over.
work and
I don't know, by the time you're done with the
full labor.
wheelbarrows, it'll probably be gone anyway.
So you'd have to make sure there's parking spaces
also, for the same purpose.
Yeah, I think, which is kind of what was done at Cloverdale, is one of those spaces is accessible, is
You
for
mean
handicap
Oak
parking.
Harbor?
It's-
At
it's-
Oak Hill, you mean?
Oak
Yeah,
Hill?
yeah, what did I say?
Cloverdale.
Yeah, you know the one we already did, I'm getting ahead of myself.
Yeah.
So it's not paved yet, but it's set up so that in the future, there's no barrier to it being done in the future. Which I'm assuming will be the same over at Cloverdale.
So is the next plan to see a plan or of the mitigation area?
This is it.
Oh, okay, there's no like dimensions and showing
It's,
where.
it's really gonna be because
Too many questions.
Well, I just,
it
I didn't
depends,
envision it.
it depends on what size equipment, it's really a design build type thing. So you gotta see what equipment is going out there, and get it out there and up on the berm.
I've seen this, but I didn't see any map that shows where the mitigation exactly would be. Like, just a drawn, over.
Yeah, or like an aerial photo or
Yeah.
something.
Well,
I do that.
okay, yeah,
But it is
because
circled in there.
that's,
There's photographs of it.
yeah.
Right, yeah, I saw that.
I think it says fly by the seat of your pants.
Well, if you wanna see something, I could probably draw something
just-
on an aerial photograph, but
Yeah.
it's really not gonna be much more than an oval saying,
Saying this
this,
is
you
where.
know, we don't have topo out there.
Like-
This shouldn't take more than a day, and I'd be on the site the whole time. And as
It's
with,
gonna take more than a day to build a boardwalk, isn't it?
oh, for the mitigation, for the mitigation.
Yeah, a few more days than that.
How many
Down
volunteers
one
you
day?
have?
Unless we get those Department of Correction guys to help us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't envision,
But we can also, it might be easier to do another site walk out there if you want to discuss on the ground what's gonna happen.
I wouldn't need to, I can picture it in my mind, but some,
I
does
think-
somebody
Yeah, I have a
else
good
I
wanna-
handle.
think what you
I'm fine,
need
I have a
is
good
the
handle on it.
mapping that they showed down at the selectmen's meeting, because they had a map that showed where it was going around.
Do you
Oh,
have
yeah,
that
that's true.
With the boardwalks on?
Well, that was in the original filing.
I wanna get a sense of the mitigation, like, what part of the berm you're removing, what part of the berm you're gonna, or take
Well,
away.
you stood and walked.
In addition,
What? You stood and walked, you walked the
Well,
forward.
here's,
but is it gonna be
And
like
I
the
could mark
entire
up-
berm and then the 350 square
Are
feet
you
is gonna be
taking it
next
down
to
to the
it?
same
this
level
is,
as the
okay,
first
here's,
wetland?
here's,
Yeah,
Um,
not the second level, actually,
So this is actually
far
where it's
wetland.
been mowed.
So
That-
water
that
would
is-
flow
that is
from the
where
first to the
boardwalk's gonna
second.
be. This is the berm.
It doesn't-
This, like,
yeah,
signature here?
Yeah.
Hypothetically.
So this part
Hypothetically,
here,
yeah.
dig out.
Yeah.
Right, so we'd be digging out
The
300
first
square feet
first
in here.
wetland is
That
actually
direction?
just a
'Cause I
puddle.
didn't know if it was
It's
gonna
just
do
really not
trapped-
flowing at all.
Trapped by the
we can't
berm
go
on
that
one side
Oh.
and
It
the
gets flooded
pasture
very
land on the
quickly.
other
So
side.
we all on this
This is a
And
spring
Okay.
coming out of the
it-
pasture land and it's
And
just
so
sitting
they-
there,
they
It's
basically.
just
rather
groundwater
than-
that
Behind
develops
to
there,
make sure that this gets-
and then it dries up.
so that you can actually-
It's a little bit muddy right
Oh,
now.
so they'll
but-
take the soil from
Goes
here
into
and
that
just put it,
Correct.
add it to the berm?
And if there's access,
It can't,
access.
there
Yeah.
is a
Just can't
space
go.
Pile
further
up here
along
outside the
there
buffer zone.
where you can see between where they
What
put
do
the
you mean
dirt up.
excess?
If they can't
That
lose
it
it all
probably
in the
goes out.
existing berm.
Yeah.
then
No,
they
I-
have to
yeah,
take out
I know
more-
what you're talking
If
about.
they have to take more material from here,
Okay.
then they can lose on top of the existing berm.
Okay.
It'll have to be trucked out of the buffer zone.
Okay, everyone hear that?
You see that? Okay. So,
Yeah.
now, of course, I'm upside down.
Design
So
area.
here's Great Road, and you
Yeah.
see where the boardwalk trail has been
Yeah.
mowed, so it goes through there. And this light signature here,
Yes.
that's the berm.
Mhm.
So the boardwalk would go through here, so it would be excavating this part in here to whatever 300 feet, give or take is. As the excavator can then either back up or start refilling this berm where there's big divots in it so that it can be mowed in the future. And if there's excess, then it would have to be trucked probably up here to where the parking lot's gonna be outside the buffer zone. So that material can be reused for leveling, because I'm assuming this parking area would eventually need leveling.
use that
Well,
area.
I suspect that's loamy material, so it probably wouldn't work very well.
Yeah, it might be pretty good stuff, actually, because the
Yeah.
other place
I
you
was
can
just
go.
wondering whether we
Yeah,
could put it
exactly,
there.
over there, yeah. I dug around a little bit, and it looked like pretty good stuff in there, so.
Yeah, I would think that if you put it on the rest of the berm, are you just gonna seed it with grass? Or
Well, we would
wetland
if it was up, yeah, we probably would.
The seed bank in there has gotta be just
Oh, so it would reseed
phenomenal.
quickly.
Yeah, probably all wrong stuff, but.
Yeah, the invasives.
But this area here, which is the wetland creation area, would be seeded with the wetland seed mix. Monitored for the 2 to 3 years.
Well, I mean, you have a good point, that if we have raw soil on top of that berm, it's gonna be invasive loving area, so that maybe we should plant it with blueberry or something.
It's kinda
Remember-
like canary, it's gonna be like canary grass.
It's gonna be reed canary grass.
Yeah.
Hopefully it isn't Phragmites.
There is some on the other side starting to come in from the retention basin on Surrey Road.
But that whole piece of berm, as well as a lot of the other stuff, is gonna need to be mowed once a year, because the invasives are just not gonna go away
Right.
for a long time.
Yeah, it's a marathon.
Yeah.
They
So
control
we'll
that.
make it mowable. Okay.
Do we have
So
public input?
what are we supposed to, vote on this to okay this? Is that
Do we
where
have
we're
public?
at?
Are you here do you wanna,
It says
do you have
it's
any
just a
input? You're just-
discussion.
Okay.
No, it's a discussion of the Cloverdale parking lot, but if you look at the next page.
Okay. Uh-huh. Notice-
Oh, public hearing.
Well, I make a motion to issue a order of conditions for construction of boardwalk, Cloverdale Conservation Land, U02 320, Mass DP 204863.
Do I hear a second?
Second?
Heard a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Meeting, so do we have?
Not yet.
We must have something we need. to-
And on the parking lot, I forgot to mention, I did talk to Green International, get some idea of what the costs might be, and I just asked for a rough cost, and they sent me the whole thing. Their entire thing, soup to nuts, which includes the field survey, conceptual design, meetings, access permit, we're still trying to figure out if we need the access permit or not, and the construction documents, the total, and, stormwater memorandum, although I think it's outside the buffer zone, is basically $14,000. That's a draft, is preliminary, but, it's a ballpark, which I think was pretty similar to it's less than I think what we had for Oak Hill.
Yeah, and
I
we-
think Chris Stoddard took them to task for what they charged for.
I think it was
the Oak
like
Hill parking
11,
lot.
around 11,000, Chris got finished it. I guess the big issue was the police. They added quite a bit of,
Yes, they did, yeah, for the actual construction. So this is not construction cost, this is getting you to construction.
Design
Yeah.
and permitting.
But that I finally got hold of the guy from Mass DOT who'd been ignoring our calls for a long time. And he said, just send me some stuff. So I sent him some stuff, and his only response was thanks, so. So we still have, obviously, a ways to go with them to see what it is. But I think that even if we need a full access permit, we're probably gonna need most of that information anyway to make sure it's being done, so. And stormwater is clearly not gonna be getting onto Great Road, because it's all downhill away from Route 2, so. But we can move ahead with that at a later date.
Okay.
That was all I had, unless you guys had anything else.
I had only.
Oh, and I had one thing for
Amy
Jim, actually.
O'Connor's, the Eagle Scout project. Were we gonna just chat about that?
Oh, yes.
So are we closing the hearing for Cloverdale?
Yes, so we're done with Cloverdale.
So we have an Eagle Scout who would like.
somebody needs to make a motion to close the hearing and issue an order of.
Oh, no,
conditions.
Anna and Julie did that.
I didn't say close the hearing, but I guess that's assumed if you issue our conditions.
Yeah.
I was just asking that we were
Yeah.
done, so we can
Yes.
move on to something else, that's
Yeah,
all.
yeah.
That's
Before
all.
we get into any more.
Apologize for the
Thank you
confusion.
very much.
Did we have a vote on that? No, we haven't voted on it. We closed it and we had a second motion. We did?
Yeah, we voted.
Okay, No, it's all voted on.
Well, as soon as you also vote, I thought I heard an all in favor, but are you in favor?
Yeah.
You vote aye?
Yes.
Okay. Let's make sure we got that. Yeah.
And do you have an order, do you have the paperwork we signed?
Oh, yes. And there was one other piece of other business, was a potential Eagle Scout project that I'd forgotten to.
Yeah, Eamon, it's O'Connor, I think it's.
Eamon O'Connor, yeah.
Yeah, his last name. He's been talking about doing this boardwalk, connecting the middle school to 300 King Street, which would provide enable them to park at the middle school for events. There's a real problem with parking when they have events at 300 King.
Oh, yeah, parking's.
And so it is a good project.
Castle in the Trees.
Castle in the Trees. And it goes across Conservation Trust property, and there's a intermittent stream that runs there, so he would have to cross that. He would have to submit, he's gonna be 18, I think, at the end of the summer, so he didn't realize for some reason.
I mean, there's already a connection by the library.
Yeah, Russell Street. Two
Yeah,
Brothers
Russell
Trail in
Street.
Russell Street.
Yeah,
There's
that's,
that
Gone the other direction.
that's the other way.
Yeah,
Okay.
That takes you,
right, it's just a little farther down the road.
Okay.
this would make
Used to be a
it,
path that went down through there, because I know some kids that used to walk down from.
well, kids have been making bridges across
Yeah,
there
there's
Yeah.
an
for-
old bridge
forever.
there, yeah.
So it was, in order for him to get through the process with the ConsCom, you would have to submit drawings 10 days before your next meeting, which would be in the next few days.
I think she said July 11th was the deadline.
Well, for the
Before
July
the
9th
next-
July
meeting, it would
9th is the
be,
meeting.
Oh,
The next
sooner
would be
than
like
that.
tomorrow. I don't think I have it on here.
Is that Monday, the next meeting?
next meeting's July 9th,
Yeah.
which is.
So he's got a few days.
Not very many.
No, he doesn't.
Sneak up on them real quick.
Right, right. And I don't suspect that the drawings are gonna be wonderful, but basically it's gonna be a couple of telephone poles with 2x6s and a strip, pretty much similar to what we'll be doing at Cloverdale.
Thought you weren't using telephone poles.
No,
We're
no.
not, no, this is what he's gonna be using.
With creosote.
That
Yeah, I
kinda
say the
sounds
creosote.
like-
It'll be entirely different than Cloverdale.
Yeah.
It seems like it might be similar to the one in Long Lake Park. There's one over there, I think that.
There is.
The
Scout-
Boy Scout
Scouting?
Bridge, yeah,
Yeah.
similar to
The
that.
Boy Scout Bridge.
Yeah.
But this will be pretty straightforward. I think a 24-foot run, and then it will work its way up to 300 King on the other side. I flagged out a trail for him that his guys can do, or we can do for him. I had one question on the on the middle school side, there's a speckled alder or some native shrub that's right in the way of where the trail has to come. And would it be all right if I removed that?
Not yet.
Well, I've been looking at that. It's been in the way ever since I've been doing this. I want it out of there so you can just.
So when's the Boy Scout, when's he gonna come in?
Well, he would hopefully come in at that meeting on the 11th.
So.
July
I
9th.
think
July
it's,
9th.
Or the
I
9th.
think we have high standards for these Boy Scouts that are trying to earn. So it's on him. I don't think you should even discuss it anymore. It's his proposal.
Well, Amy said that he'd have to get it in by tomorrow, or something?
By
Does he
Wednesday.
turn 18? When's he turn 18 and become ineligible?
A
couple of months, I believe.
Or September
So he's
or
got
something.
time. I would,
Not
He's
a
gotta
lot.
get it done by then?
Yeah, he has
Oh,
to,
wow.
before his
That's not a lot of
18th
time.
birthday,
Yeah,
he
he
has
doesn't have
to
much time.
qualify for Eagle.
Yeah, I
He might build a kiosk if this doesn't work. I mean, conceivably, he's gonna look at this and say, wow, I can't do it.
it's a bit of a heavy lift, to use that term again.
It is.
And we've been having this discussion.
Right. But
Because I've never been down there to see it either.
Yeah,
so.
I don't have a
It's up to him.
good idea.
Over the hill
So we
behind the
have 2
tennis
days.
courts.
Yeah.
up to him.
I did clean up there for cleanup day. It was down back
Ah.
there, but I haven't
Yeah.
been like through making it all the way to the
Oh,
middle
there's
school,
one
so I
thing
don't-
to get a submission in to get on the agenda.
Right.
There's another thing to build on that submission to have something that you can actually close on. So it's,
Right.
So whatever's
could very
on
well
the-
take more than one night.
The NOI and whatever's on the agenda, yeah, I mean, it needs to be,
'Cause I
you
assume
would
you
need an
probably
order
wanna
of
do a
Whoever's
conditions.
having
sidewalk.
come up with this project,
Yeah.
it's up to the candidate. Come up with this project, make his presentation,
Yeah.
have all the necessary, it's all, to me, it's all part of the process of earning.
Yeah, and one of the things, we've been discussing is that, for these Eagle Scout projects it is tough for them to do the permitting piece of things.
right, yeah, I think it's reasonable to get guidance for the
Yeah.
permitting
it is, Carl.
process.
I think there was a period where they didn't want to come before, the scouts just said, "Oh, don't do anything to do with water." Because it was so difficult for them to get through this process, so that's why I'm trying to help him.
I understand.
I mean,
but
all the
to
homeowners
me-
we see in businesses, they hire consultants to do their permits.
Yeah, and you're gonna have to notify the abutters.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's kind of a
I know, so they're not
like
going,
this town.
but it's
Right.
reasonable
Is-
to
but is
have
this the
guidance.
property
I don't think they
Washington
should hire a
Ave
consultant.
Donated?
It's,
I
yes.
understand they can
right.
get guidance.
Yeah.
But that was the other question, was making him pay for filing fees and a butter notification. And paper notification, 'cause that's a good $200 or $300. And we can waive the bylaw piece of it, but you still need to pay the DEP fines, you need to pay close to $200 for the newspaper, and then whatever the abutters
Right,
are,
public
$7 or
notification.
$8 a shot.
I think we have waived it in the past.
Well, we've waited in the
we
past there,
can,
and-
We can't, but there's some costs you just can't.
Right.
But I'm saying what we can.
But we can waive ours.
I think we waived it.
But it's
But
still something that he needs to add on to his project cost, which is pretty significant
Yeah.
upfront,
True.
And it
probably
does-
before he's done any
It
fundraising.
does sound like it's gonna take 2 meetings.
No, I think it will. I think it will. That's what I told him anyway.
Which is gonna push that into the end of July or 1st of August.
Right, our next meeting, July 9th and 23rd, are our next two meetings.
So, let me know what he thinks, I can do the notice of intent forms, and get the form piece and lot and block and all that stuff for him.
But it's gotta be advertised.
But he
in a
needs to
certain-
write something up, and I can get the abutters list, but he's gotta do the abutter notification, and pay for the newspaper ad, that's gonna be the first initial cost, and DEP filing fee.
You can do the abutter notification.
That's,
Is
well,
that all
that's-
registered mail, or is
Yes.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he can go out and do it by hand and get people to sign for it.
Oh, we can, all right.
So,
Probably not a lot of abutters though for that.
There aren't many.
Right?
it
Maybe like the
depends, if they're
town and-
big parcels,
Yeah, but you got all of Russell Street.
All of Russell Street is
well,
gonna be.
their whole butter notification thing is just a goat rope, because if you're in the
Oh,
middle
is
of a
it
really
a-
big parcel, I'd say how
Then
big the
don't-
parcels, if the parcels are big enough, then you're better off.
Yeah.
But if they're, I think, less than 100 acres, which is, all right, you're stuck with the abutters,
Yep.
Yeah.
even if they're nowhere near the work.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I've
Well, I think- what am I
experienced
telling you?
that once or twice. I'm just
I think a
hoping.
lot of it's school property and 300
Yeah,
King
like
Street,
town.
so towns, it's town
Just,
property.
would he have to, I mean,
And probably
could we
the,
waive the notification to the town since he's doing the NOI and it's a notification?
DEP
building,
will
the
often say
church there.
that they will
You can notify.
rely on the
But there's not
ConsCom to determine what needs to be
between it,
notified.
I'll have to take a
But
look. I'll take a
if someone
look
wants
at
to
that.
appeal it,
Right,
you're gonna
One-
lose if you didn't do,
one more
a
project.
fully straightforward
Sure.
thing.
yep,
Because on a really big project, you only have to notify butters within 1,000 feet or something, I think it is.
yep.
I forget what they've changed it to now, so they've got all these
Well,
diagrams.
yeah, there's, and different
Yeah.
towns have different requirements too.
Well, Amy, I will work with you on that.
Why
And
don't
with
I,
Amy.
tomorrow, I'll get the abutter notification list, so at least we know what we're dealing with, if
Okay.
we do a straightforward list,
All right,
and see where that lands us.
okay.
and then let me know if he's serious about this, filing on Wednesday. And except for the book and page information, which I don't know how to get. I can fill out the forms, but I don't know what the book and page numbers are for those 2 lots, I guess, he's working on.
The assessor should have that.
That'd be in the assessors, yeah.
I always
He
make
is
the lawyer
just
stupid.
working, he
Yeah.
is just working on the Conservation Trust
Yeah.
parcel. There are trails that go from the school, but I think they go right onto the Conservation Trust.
Okay, so he's only working on one piece of
One
property.
piece of
That
property.
helps- That helps a lot.
Right. I had one other quick one. This tax title property on Newtown Road, you visited, some of you visited it.
Next to Yap.
Before Cloverdale.
Oh.
Next to, adjoins the Yap property.
Right.
It's full of black swallowwort. And it's gonna come to the Conservation Commission, and it will have those other pieces peeled off. Right now, between now and December or whenever, it's owned by the town, and it would be really good if the whole lot was treated to kill that stuff.
Yeah, that stuff's bad.
How do you treat black swallowwort? I haven't
I think
treated that one.
you spray it with
Roundup or something?
Roundup,
Probably a
Garland.
crossbow,
what's that?
probably crossbow.
Could be, I'm not
But
familiar
you
with
need to-
crossbow, but.
But you need to read the label, see.
Get it
I think
before
there's
pods are
other
out.
stuff out there. Roundup is all right, but it's.
I think they listed 2 things on the page. One was Roundup, one was something else.
With
There was a-
Garland for.
Yes.
I use Garland.
Was it Garland?
Personally, but,
Yeah.
yeah. And I've been controlling it in the fields that get mowed. I had no idea where this was all coming from. That's where it's affecting the land that currently gets hayed by Danny.
So the question is going to the Board of Selectmen to be able to get out there and
Permission to do it.
mow
and
it and/or spray.
I've tried.
And then who's gonna pay for it?
I tried to get Chris Stoddard, because they have some people
Oh, yep.
with licenses to do it,
Yep.
but it doesn't look like they have any time. And Chris asked me to get a professional quote, and they're all booked out this year. They're all booking for next year.
Holy cow.
So the only
Busy time of year.
chance is probably for me to do it. So if you can just see if you can get at least permission, and I can't even promise I'm gonna have time to do it.
Yeah.
But if I can get your okay on it, I will,
Is it like the whole, it's all like intermingled with the
no, it's
the grasses?
really
or-
bad, right as you as you go into it. I'll have to work with the neighbors,
Okay.
but then it's sort of spotty.
Near, the fire hydrant?
The fire hydrant, if
Okay.
you're facing the fire hydrant, you
Yep.
look to your right, that's the worst
Okay.
clump of it.
Got
But
it.
then it's scattered all through.
So wait, why do you have to do it before the
It's-
transfer?
Before they go to.
Produces pods.
Well,
It goes to seed.
I need to do it before, because it's wind blown.
Yep.
And
It produces pods and it's,
And then you really want it before the land gets transferred, because if it's, they're not gonna be able to take care of it. So
Oh,
it'll
the-
just be
the-
spreading.
The neighbors.
Private property
Right.
owners, you mean?
yeah,
right.
the-
Oh.
And it
Wait,
seems,
so you're
Section.
treating their property?
no, right now, we're treating town
No,
property.
no, I understand it's our property now, but wouldn't you want to sort of give that duty away?
But will they
I
do
don't
it?
know.
The question, they will probably have to do it in the future, but I'll try to educate them to the process.
No, they won't have to.
The restricted
Love to get rid of it.
pesticide, they probably may not be able to do it without hiring somebody,
Right.
and they may not want to spend the money
Well, a homeowner can do it on their own land.
if they have, if it's
They don't have
restricted,
access
if
to
they
some of
haven't
the,
got it
right, the RUPS.
Yeah.
Restricted.
Restricted use pesticides.
But it's not restricted, I don't
Yeah.
think, though.
No, it's not.
Caroline, is brush be gone, or,
Oh, okay.
so.
Don't you have a license though? thought-
I have a license, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
and I might be able, if we can get rid of most of it, I can help them in the future, because I'll probably be spot spraying through there forever, once ConsCom owns it, same time I'm doing the fields. But, last year was tough for me, and I didn't do as good a job as I should have, I'm sure. And it's the same thing happened with the mile a minute that I've been trying to take care of down by.
Oh, it's here?
Yeah, we have that, but I've been dealing with that for 10 years, and last year I had two two examples of it, but it was late in the season, and I've already taken out 40.
Oh my God, I didn't know it was that extensive here.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's total control. These, that's a little thing like this. It was all over the place when we started.
Is that
Where?
behind Bonsai?
Bonsai West.
Behind
Oh,
Bonsai West?
oh, okay.
But it's, anyway, it's, that's why I'm pushing to get some sort of a invasive plant committee formed, just so we can map this stuff, so when I forget, there's a calendar that says, somebody should be doing this now.
Well, I was just wondering, I know the town of Harvard got a grant, and they really cleaned up quite an area with, had somebody commercially come in and do
Mhm.
it. They did get a grant, and I was wondering if there was something out there where you had enough so you knew where it was.
Yep.
You could have somebody come in and commercially do it.
Uh-huh.
That's what we needed for Japanese knotweed at Long Lake. There are some humongous patches.
Yeah.
Or along Newtown Road. Somebody calling about the knotweed on Newtown Road.
Long Hartwell too. What do we do about invasive plant species and conservation restrictions? We keep them out of conservation restrictions?
Depends on the conservation restriction. I hardly know where they are, let alone.
Yeah. Any
Yeah, apparently,
teeth as
well,
far as that goes.
does
Anyways,
anybody want to move that I
Just a lot of
recommend to the
invasive
Board of
plants.
Selectmen to allow Rick to spray the black swallows water on whatever property that is?
And
Why don't
yeah,
you, why
yeah,
don't you put
so
invasive
moved.
species in rather than,
Actually, you can do that because there is some autumn olive
So
in there that I'll
yeah.
Oh.
cut
Yeah.
and paint at the same
Not
time.
just-
Mm.
Yep.
And
stating one thing you're going after?
there's also Japanese knotweed, which,
I heard that you should harpoon it right down the center of their each stalk.
You inject it,
Well-
but you let it
Inject it.
expend enough energy and then
Well, that's 10 years.
cut it.
So
and
everything
then
comes out of
inject
the
it.
roots, yeah.
Yeah.
But if you-
somewhere, I've been looking for my injector. In England, they use an
Yes,
injector that they
inject- like a
do the
harpoon, yeah.
second one up.
Yeah, to get right down to the rhizome and.
Well, this just goes into the first, above the first joint, and but you use so much material, that's why I never decided to use it.
Mm.
Because we are limited by how much you can
Oh.
put anywhere.
Oh, right,
Huh.
yeah.
And
I know, yeah.
so there's another new product that came on that's good for wetlands. I may have said something, but I did a cut and paint, and then I chipped the tops, and then threw them down on top of it, and the whole thing disappeared, and it really worked well. But then I discovered, so ignorant I was, that migrates, and if there were trees around, if I had done a big area, this was
Huh.
more of a test.
Yeah.
But if I had done a big area, I could have been killing full-size trees. So that's unfortunately limited to
And-
areas where you don't have trees.
Wait, I thought chipping the
works.
knotweed wouldn't work because the bits.
Oh, no,
would
the
make-
shit.
Yeah, you can't chip knotweed, it'll.
No,
so you
that, as
were-
long as you're not dealing with roots, it's fine.
Oh,
See?
really?
The nodes don't.
If you're, I'm talking about chips like this.
Yeah, little.
I'm running it
I
through a
thought every
chipper.
little-
Yeah, that
But I
thing.
thought little bits of it will make a plant.
No, there's the little bits of root will,
Oh.
but
What the nodes do. Interesting.
But Julie moved, anybody second
Okay.
that?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
thank you very, very much.
Thank
everybody.
Okay, we've got
Sherman?
continued public hearing notice of intent, 10-foot pond.
Wait, there's something else on there?
That's
No,
it.
those are all the ones that were
Next week.
continued.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Ten
Second.
thirty.
So there's,
Oh,
We have to vote?
we
Aye.
gotta make
Aye.
a motion to adjourn.
oh, we did.
We did, and we seconded. We also seconded.
Yeah.